Marvel x LOTM. Amon, I Am the Light of Mutants by author Yong Lan de Kong Shang Jia. Chapter 1-25. On December 26, 1991, on the Siberian plains, a very strong young man was walking in the snow when a bright light suddenly flashed across his face. He took a few steps back, and a circular spot of light reflected on his face. Peter Rasputin looked towards the source of the light and saw a baby in the snow. Peter quickly ran over, picked up the baby from the cold snow, and carefully examined him. The baby was very strange. He wore a crystal monocle over his eye and held a cold, eerie mask in his hand. Peter didn't observe him for too long. After checking that the baby was still alive, he quickly took off his coat and wrapped the baby in it to prevent him from dying of hypothermia. He quickly ran home with the baby, thinking to himself, what kind of parents would abandon a baby in the snow? Never mind, I'll take him home first and ask Mom and Dad. Returning to his family's farm, Peter shouted to his parents inside the house, Dad, Mom. I found a baby. Peter's father, Nikolai Rasputin, came out of the house and looked at the baby his son was holding in surprise. Oh, Alexandra, come out and see, our son brought back a baby. A woman quickly came out of the house and took the baby from Peter's hands. Peter, where did you find him? Peter scratched his head and said, just in the snow not far from the village. At the time, he only had a monocle and a mask on him, not even clothes. The woman looked at the baby in her arms. How pitiful, abandoned in the snow. Oh, Nikolai, look, he's wearing a monocle. How strange, who would put something like this on a baby? As she spoke, the woman took the monocle from the baby's face and held it in her hand, examining it. It is very strange. Nikolai also took the mask from the baby's hand and observed it carefully. This might be a keepsake left by his parents, but given the current situation, we definitely won't be able to find his relatives. Dad, Mom, look, he's opened his eyes. At this moment, Peter noticed that the baby in his mother's arms seemed to have woken up. He really woke up. His eyes are so beautiful. They're like a hidden cosmos. The baby's eyes were very peculiar, as if they contained layers of illusory doors, or resembled a cosmos. The woman looked at her husband, Nikolai, let's adopt him. He can be a companion for little Ilyana. Of course, if we hand him over to the government, given the current situation, who knows what might happen, he might not even live for a few days. Nikolai said. Peter cheered, I have a younger brother. What should we name him? Alexandra, the woman, asked her husband and son. Amon, let's call him Amon Rasputin. Nikolai said a name. What does this name mean? Peter asked his father curiously. Amon, the sun god of Egypt. I hope that in the future, when he grows up, he can bring light to this country. Then let's call him Amon, little Amon. Alexandra also agreed with her husband's suggestion. The couple carried Amon back to the bedroom and placed him in a crib. There was also a baby in the crib, their newborn daughter, Ilyana Rasputin. What they didn't know was that the monocle and mask they had put aside to find Amon's relatives in the future had unknowingly returned to Amon. At this moment, Amon, as a baby, was looking at the ceiling and the baby girl beside him with eyes that did not belong to a baby. Li Meng felt that his current experience was like a dream, but this incredibly real feeling told him that it was not a dream. He had transmigrated, becoming a baby. He remembered that before transmigrating, he was staying up late in his dorm reading a novel. The novel he had been following for over a year finally ended, but his favorite character embarked on a daddy-pitting journey. He was very dissatisfied with this ending and then fell asleep. In his dream, he felt the environment was a bit cold. He thought the dorm window was open, but when he woke up, he saw several large faces staring at him. It took him a long time to realize that he seemed to have transmigrated and become a baby, but this baby seemed a bit different. Looking at the monocle and the eerie mask in his hand, Li Meng's mind was very confused. They named me Amon, and there's this monocle and eerie mask. Did I transmigrate as Aean or celestial worthy? This doesn't look like the world of Lord of the Mysteries either. They seem to be speaking Russian, how can I understand it when I don't know Russian? Perhaps it was because he had become a baby, or perhaps his mind was confused. Li Meng, no, it should be Amon, closed his eyes and fell asleep again. 6 years later, a little boy sat under a tree, admiring the distant snowy scenery. It was Amon, who had transmigrated to this world. It's been 6 years since I came to this world. Life is not bad. I have parents, an older brother, and a younger sister, unlike my previous life where I was an orphan. It would be even better if this wasn't Marvel. I also don't know what level my power is in this world. In these 6 years since transmigrating, Amon had initially become familiar with his abilities. He was like a low-spec version of Lord of the Mysteries. The monocle and eerie mask he brought with him when he transmigrated were the uniqueness of Error and Fool respectively. As for the uniqueness of Door, it was his eyes. As for Saphira Castle, the most crucial part of Lord of the Mysteries, Amon had not found any trace of it. Perhaps he didn't bring Saphira Castle when he transmigrated, or perhaps some Marvel existence had hidden it, or it was possible that Amon was too weak to sense it now, though this possibility was very small. Amon, now 6 years old, could barely use the Beyonder abilities of the Error, Fool, and Door pathways. He was still too young now. Perhaps in a few more years, he could become as powerful as the blasphemer Aean in the novel Lord of the Mysteries. As for how Aean determined this was Marvel, it was simple. The family who adopted him was the Colossus family from X-Men. The one who carried him away from the snow was the future Colossus, Peter Rasputin, also known as Peter Rasputin. The current Colossus was still a naive teenager who yearned for art. His younger sister was the well-known Hell Lord, Magic, Ileana Rasputin, though she was still a little girl now. Amon's eyes moved, and he saw a snowball flying towards him, but he didn't dodge, instead letting the snowball explode on his head. Ha ha ha, big dummy Aean. Can't even dodge a snowball. A little blonde girl laughed at Aean from a distance. Aean brushed the snow from his head, scooped up some snow from the ground, molded it into a snowball, and said to the little girl. Heh, little Liana, it looks like I need to teach you a lesson and let you know who's the boss. Haha, the boss is me, of course. I'm the older sister. I don't think so, I'm older than you, you're the younger sister. No, I came first, you came later, so I'm the older sister. A snowball flew onto little Liana's head, and Amon's laughter was heard. Haha, little Liana, what you say doesn't count. The little girl quickly scooped up a handful of snow from the ground, kneaded it into a snowball, and threw it at Aean. Then whoever wins gets to be the older sister. I'm the older brother. Aean and little Liana started a snowball fight in the snow, but how could a little girl possibly beat Aean? The number of people reading my novel suddenly increased, so to prevent it from being taken down due to copyright issues and having to refund, I deleted the chapter that originally introduced the abilities of the Lord of the Mysteries. However, I screenshotted the original content and will post it in the comment section or in this chapter's discussion. Those interested can take a look. Since the word count didn't reach 1000, I couldn't post it, so I'll talk about other things here. The Aean in this book is a transmigrator. Before transmigrating, he was just an ordinary college student, unlike the naturally born mythical creature Aean in Lord of the Mysteries. Such an Aean would be very difficult to write because he would have no humanity, only divinity. He would be high above, only doing things that benefited him, and writing him would be too challenging. So I changed my approach and wrote about a transmigrator who transmigrated as an infant, just like the snake of fate, washing away his divinity and slowly growing. The growth here is not about abilities but about the balance between divinity and humanity. He will have people or things he cares about and will not be solely dominated by divinity. This is also why I chose for him to transmigrate as an infant. If he were to directly become a complete king of angels, then Marvel would have an Aean truly from Lord of the Mysteries, which might be even worse, as that Aean had the ancient sun god and Medici looking after him, while this Aean would only have his humanity completely washed away by that terrifying divinity. Of course, the main reason is that it's easier to write this way. Here, I'd like to thank the readers who have given me rewards during this time. Ileana, Aean, it's time to go back. Peter called out to the two playing in the snow in the distance. Okay. Aemon responded loudly, then threw a large ball of snow at Lyanna. Hey, Lyanna, you lost this time, quickly call me big brother. The little girl stood up, brushed the snow off her body, and said, unconvinced. HMPH, I'm not playing anymore, it's time to go home. This doesn't count, we'll compete again later. Hee, it's the same every time. The little girl was very unhappy, ignoring Aemon, and quickly ran towards Peter. Aemon quickly chased after her. The three siblings returned to the farmhouse. After entering the door, Aemon felt that the atmosphere inside was very wrong. Nikolai sat on the sofa, looking dazed, while Alexandra was sobbing, nestled in his arms. Seeing the two distressed people inside the house, Peter asked uneasily. Father, what happened? He didn't ask his mother, who was crying a river of tears, but rather his father, who had always been the pillar of the family. Peter, Mikhail, he died in the line of duty during a mission. Nikolai sadly stated the reason. Hearing this, Peter was momentarily dazed and said in disbelief. How is that possible? My big brother is so capable, he's an excellent astronaut, how could he have an accident? This was sent by government staff. Nikolai handed Peter an envelope. Peter hurriedly took it and quickly read it. The letter fell to the ground, and Peter's face was full of disbelief. How could this be? I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Peter directly rushed out the door. Hey, Peter, don't be impulsive. Nikolai quickly stood up, wanting to chase him. He looked back at Aemon. Aemon, Ilyana, take care of mother. I'm going to check on your big brother. With that, he also left the room and chased after Peter. Aemon picked up the letter from the ground and read it carefully. The content of the letter, in summary, stated that Mikhail and his team were on a space mission, and for unknown reasons, Mikhail and his team lost contact. They tried various methods but couldn't reach them, so they could only declare Mikhail and his team deceased. The specific circumstances were not mentioned in the letter, citing national secrecy. Aemon felt his arm being tightly held. It was Lyanna, who asked with tears in her eyes. Aemon, is Big Brother really dead? The government's letter only says they couldn't establish contact with Big Brother, it didn't explicitly state death. Big Brother might also be trapped somewhere, unable to contact the outside world. Really? Lyanna wiped her tears and asked. Really, Big Brother will be fine. Aemon comforted her. Mother, who was nearby, obviously heard Amon's words. Although she knew that what Aemon said was likely a very small possibility, as a mother, she could only grasp this last hope. She came in front of Aemon and Lyanna, hugged them, and said, Mikhail will be fine, he will be fine. After Peter left the house, he ran wildly. He didn't know where he was going, he just wanted to be alone, away from everyone. His big brother, Mikhail, had always been Peter's idol. He had excellent grades since childhood, even entered a military academy, joined the army, and successfully became an astronaut. For a long time, Peter's dream was to become an astronaut like his big brother. What Peter didn't know was that as he ran wildly, his body continuously expanded, and a metallic luster began to appear on its surface. Slowly, he transformed into a silver-white Iron Man. He came to the withered tree where Aemon had leaned earlier, wanting to punch the tree a few times to vent his emotions. With one punch, after a loud boom, the big tree in front of him was directly broken by him. What's wrong with me? Peter looked at his hands in a daze, only to see metallic, iron hands reflected in his vision. Peter, is that you? His father's voice came from behind him. Peter was at a loss, and asked in confusion. Father, what's wrong with me? Nikolai was also very shocked, but he still forced himself to calm down and said to Peter, let's go home first. Your appearance cannot be seen by others. Can you change back? Nikolai knew about mutants. The word mutant could often be seen in news and newspapers, and men who could control metal frequently appeared, but he never thought his own child would be a mutant. I don't know, I can't do it. Peter said blankly, looking at his hands. Go home quickly, it'll be fine when we get home. Nikolai laboriously pulled Peter towards the farm. Peter was his child, and even if he became a mutant, he couldn't abandon him. As they were about to return to the farm, Nikolai felt the resistance lessen. He looked back and found that his son had returned to his normal appearance. Peter, you're back to normal. Peter raised his right hand and saw that it had returned to a flesh color, no longer metallic. It seems so. It's good that you've recovered. Go home quickly, don't let your mother worry anymore. She just lost your big brother, don't let her be stimulated again. Mother. Peter remembered his mother, and her haggard appearance when he first entered the house. I won't let mother worry. Peter said solemnly. Aemon comforted his sister and mother, while in his heart, he pondered how to investigate the matter of his big brother, Mikhail. Although Mikhail was not Amon's biological big brother, he was very good to him. Aemon had met this convenient big brother 3 times in total. The first time was when Aemon was 1 year old. After learning that Aemon was adopted, Mikhail even used his connections in the government to help search for Amon's biological relatives, but the result was nothing. This was inevitable. Although Aemon didn't understand how he transmigrated, what was certain was that his body definitely didn't belong to this world. If there truly were his blood relatives in this world, with Amon's current abilities, he would definitely be able to find them. However, he had used many methods, divination, and peeking into fate, but found nothing. This was enough to confirm that his body was not from this place. The second meeting was at age 3, and the most recent time he saw his convenient big brother was last year. He brought many gifts for Aemon and Lyanna, and also played games with them. Although Aemon considered himself an adult and felt it was strange to play children's games, perhaps because his body was still a child, he still enjoyed playing those games with Lyanna. Just as Aemon was thinking about various random things, Nikolai returned with Peter. Amon's eyes narrowed. Peter had changed a lot. He has awakened his abilities, Aemon concluded in his heart. The family sat in the living room, no one speaking. Suddenly, Father Nikolai spoke. Tomorrow, I will go to the relevant government department to find out exactly what happened to Mikhail. A simple, national secret, is not enough. Father, I'll go with you. Peter followed, saying. Nikolai looked into his son's eyes, which revealed determination. Okay, you come with me. Nikolai had originally wanted to refuse, because Peter was a mutant, and once exposed to others, it would lead to countless troubles. But Peter's determined gaze moved him. Their farm was over 300 kilometers from the nearby big city of Irkutsk. Nikolai had a pickup truck, and a round trip would take at least 12 hours. If the road conditions were worse, it would take even longer, and it was currently winter. The harshness of winter in the Siberian plain goes without saying. This trip would take at least 3 to 4 days to return. Going together would also provide some support for each other. That night, in Amon's room, which he shared with little Lyanna and had 2 beds. Lying on his bed, Aemon suddenly opened his eyes. Layers of doors flashed in his eyes before disappearing. He pinched the monocle that had appeared on his right eye at some point and looked towards little Lyanna's bed. Something is wrong. Someone wants to teleport Lyanna away. Aemon flipped off his bed and came to little Lyanna's bedside. Little Lyanna was still asleep, but her expression was ferocious, as if she was having a nightmare, and faint blue light flickered around her body. Aemon breathed a sigh of relief, thinking to himself, it's a good thing she's by my side, allowing me to make the teleportation go wrong in time. Otherwise, little Lyanna would have disappeared. Lyanna, wake up, don't sleep anymore. Aemon said, shaking little Lyanna's body. Little Lyanna jolted awake, looking around in a panic. Seeing Aemon by her bed, she immediately pounced on him, crying, Aemon. A devil was trying to catch me, big and ugly and all on fire, it scared me to death. Don't worry, I'm here. It can't catch you. Aemon comforted little Lyanna, his monocle on his right eye glowing slightly, while he thought. Through decryption, it can be confirmed that this power comes from another dimension. If there are no surprises, it's the work of Belasco, the Lord of Limbo. Belasco, the Lord of the extra-dimensional Limbo, in the comics, because Lyanna's mutant ability was related to Limbo, Belasco captured Ileana when she was young and brought her to Limbo, wanting to better control Limbo through her. He was eventually defeated by Ileana, and Limbo became Ileana's territory. Alright, little Liana, don't cry anymore. I'll give you something, and with it, you won't have to fear the devil catching you. As he spoke, Amon magically inserted his hand into his own body and pulled out a translucent, strangely styled key. Amon smiled and placed the strange key in little Liana's hand, saying gently, "As long as you wear this, you won't have to fear the devil anymore. Brother will protect you." Amon took out a string, threaded it through the key, and hung it around little Liana's neck. "Thank you, Amon." Little Liana felt her fear lessen after putting on the key. "But I'm the older sister." Amon smiled and didn't argue. What he gave little Liana was a Beander characteristic of a Sequence 3 wanderer from the door pathway. With it, little Liana would hardly be affected by any spatial abilities and wouldn't have to worry about being captured by Belasco. Moreover, with his master's personal handling, the negative effects of this Beander characteristic were almost non-existent. Amon had long discovered that besides the uniqueness of Error, Fool, and Door, his body also contained a large number of Beander characteristics from these three pathways, especially Beander characteristics below Sequence 2 Angel. These enriched Beander characteristics somewhat enhanced Amon's abilities, but only by a very small margin. Taking out such Beander characteristics, which didn't even reach the angel level, had no effect on Amon. "Alright, go to sleep. Amon, you sleep too," the little girl said to Amon, then lay back on her bed and fell back into a dream. Amon came to the window and saw a pigeon perched on a tree in the yard. Birds like pigeons, with strong survival abilities, can survive even in the Siberian winter and don't need to migrate south. Amon pinched the monocle on his right eye, and the pigeon on the tree also mysteriously took out a monocle from the void and put it on its right eye. The pigeon flapped its wings twice and flew towards the Russia Aerospace Agency. If it were an ordinary pigeon, it would take at least 3 days to fly to the Russia Federal Space Agency, but the space in front of this pigeon seemed to be stolen and compressed. In the blink of an eye, it flew more than 10 kilometers. At this speed, it could reach its destination in a few minutes. "I want to see what the government is hiding," Amon thought to himself, then returned to his bed and continued to sleep. The pigeon outside the window was parasitized by Amon using the abilities of the Error pathway to become a clone. It was now heading to the Russia Federal Space Agency. The parasitism ability was really useful. Under Amon's control, the pigeon Amon not only possessed the abilities of the Error pathway, but also those of the Fool and Door pathways, achieving all-round development. Outside the Russia Aerospace Agency, the pigeon Amon had already reached its destination. It casually found a guard and stole his memories. The pigeon Amon understood the layout of the Aerospace Agency and flew towards the command center. The pigeon Amon arrived outside the command center building, looked around, and then phased through the wall into the interior. Using a simple illusion, the staff inside couldn't detect the pigeon Amon. Finding someone who appeared to be in the highest position, the pigeon Amon directly stole his memories. Soon, the pigeon Amon found information related to Mikhail. Secret lunar orbit, project, exploration of the far side of the moon, spacecraft lost contact, all 4 astronauts missing, Hydra resurgence, top secret. What a hassle, they actually went to the moon. And it's related to Hydra. The pigeon Amon muttered. However, this matter was also very peculiar. In Marvel, Russia's aerospace level far exceeded that of real-world Russia, even higher than before Amon's transmigration. It was unlikely that the loss of contact was due to technical reasons, it was very likely man-made. To be on the safe side, the pigeon Amon directly performed a shallow-level parasitism on this aerospace agency executive, leaving a worm of time inside him. However, because the pigeon Amon did not carry too many Beander characteristics, the clone left behind only reached a weak Sequence 4 level. The pigeon Amon left the aerospace agency. He had already clarified all the information he needed. He looked up at the sky above, the bright full moon reflected in the pigeon Amon's monocle. Layers of door patterns appeared in the monocle. The pigeon Amon used the Wanderer ability to leave Earth and instantly arrived on the moon. Time for a lunar exploration trip. The pigeon Amon quipped. Goodbye, Dad, brother. Goodbye. Stay safe, Nikolai, Peter. Early in the morning, Alexandra took Amon and Ilyana to bid farewell to Nikolai and Peter. The father and son were going to Irkutsk today to inquire with relevant departments about Mikhail's information, at least to find out what mission Mikhail was on when the accident occurred. After the father and son drove away, a gray pigeon silently followed. The gray pigeon wore a monocle on its right eye. Amon sent a clone to follow to prevent any accidents. Peter had already awakened his mutant abilities, making him easily exposed and likely to cause trouble. Currently, relations between mutants and various governments are very bad. Whenever there's an opportunity, government agencies will arrest mutants as terrorists, especially for lone mutants. If Peter were to reveal his steel body in public, the Russia government would definitely arrest him. Amon didn't want to see that situation, as it would be very troublesome to resolve. In Amon and little Liana's room, Amon was instructing little Liana. Liana, don't tell anyone about what happened last night. Little Liana held the key necklace around her neck and asked, not even Dad, Mom, and second brother. Of course not, you can't tell anyone. This is our secret. Our secret. I will definitely keep our secret well. Little Liana's eyes lit up as she excitedly replied. Outside the Irkutsk Military Aerospace Administration, Peter and Nikolai were chased out by soldiers. Sir, this concerns military secrets and national security. Please leave and do not return. Peter was furious. After he and his father went in, they were delayed by the people inside with various excuses, saying it required approval from higher-ups. After waiting for over a day, the pot-bellied officer told them that it concerned military secrets and affected national security, using the same excuse, and then dismissed them. How can you do this? Since we arrived yesterday, you've been dragging your feet, and today you're saying nothing and trying to kick us out. My brother is an excellent astronaut, he is a hero of this country, and this is how you treat him. I will sue you. Peter's angry voice echoed through the street, and people around them gathered to watch. Peter, stop talking. Nikolai held back his son, otherwise Peter would have rushed forward to confront the officer behind the soldiers. Sir, mind your language, the stout officer said emotionlessly, then walked back into the administration without looking back. The officer's perfunctory attitude and his brother's predicament infuriated Peter. His metal skin involuntarily surfaced, and in the blink of an eye, Peter once again transformed into a metal man. Seeing this, Nikolai quickly took off his jacket, trying to cover Peter's exposed metal skin. However, Peter's body also grew larger after metallization, so the clothing clearly couldn't cover him completely. It's a mutant. The already gathered crowd also noticed Peter's abnormality. Some gasped and ran away, while more pulled out their phones to take pictures. To citizens, mutants were synonymous with disaster and trouble. They detested mutants, even to the point where everyone wanted to beat them. The soldiers guarding outside the administration also saw Peter's unusual state and raised their guns, ready to attack at any moment. Nikolai quickly stood between Peter and the soldiers. Misunderstanding, we'll leave right away. The soldiers did not lower their guard because of Nikolai. The officer came out again, and after understanding the situation, he gestured to the soldiers following him. The soldiers outside immediately surrounded the two, and more soldiers ran out from the Military Aerospace Administration. Peter and Nikolai were surrounded layer by layer. Father, what should we do? Peter was very flustered. He had never seen such a scene, being aimed at by several soldiers with guns. Calm down, don't speak, leave it to me. Nikolai forced himself to calm down. From a window in a nearby building, the gray pigeon Amon sighed. Alas! As expected, something went wrong. I have to handle it. The main body should have done it personally and quickly brought Mikhail back. The monocular on the gray pigeon Amon's right eye emitted light. All memories of everyone nearby, except Peter and Nikolai, were stolen. The photos taken with phones and videos uploaded to the internet were all stolen by the gray pigeon Amon. Another flash of light passed over the monocular. The gray pigeon Amon stole Peter's mutant ability. For the next 48 hours, Peter would lose his steel transformation mutant ability. Starlight flashed, and Peter and Nikolai returned to their pickup truck. The father and son were very flustered, not knowing how they had gotten back into the car. Everyone outside the administration was momentarily dazed, then fell into a state of confusion. They didn't know why they were there, nor what they were doing. Peter's mutant ability is very special. It's not just a simple transformation into metal, but also related to an alternate dimension. It can only be said that they are indeed siblings. After stealing Peter's mutant ability, the gray pigeon Amon briefly analyzed it and discovered something very unusual. Amon had always thought that Colossus's ability was simply to steelize his body, but after analysis, he found that the essence of his ability was to summon special metal atoms from an alternate dimension to exchange with his own atoms, thereby achieving the metallization effect. Is there something special in the genes of the Rasputin family, that they can all be linked to an alternate dimension? Inside the pickup, Peter asked his father dejectedly, "Dad, what should we do? Should we keep asking?" Nikolai took a deep breath and started the engine. "No, we must have been rescued. I learned from TV that some mutants' abilities can achieve spatial transfer. The one who saved us is likely a mutant with spatial abilities. Let's go back, we won't get any answers here." Peter's fist clenched and then relaxed, and he mumbled, "Okay. .. On the moon, a man wearing a pointed soft hat and a classical robe was walking on the lunar surface. His steps were slow, but each step covered a great distance. This man was an Amon avatar. For a Sequence 3 demigod of the Gusangia, changing appearance and size, from an animal to a human, was very simple. This outfit of the God of Deceit from the Mysteries series perfectly suited Amon's aesthetic, so he transformed into it. Walking on the barren lunar surface, the Amon avatar suddenly adjusted the monocular on his right eye. He sensed something beneath his feet. Casting a simple wind spell, the soil beneath his feet was immediately blown away by a strong wind, revealing a giant metal robot several meters high on the lunar surface. It actually has a spiritual thread. This is a sentient life form. Is it the legendary silicon-based life form? As Amon muttered to himself, his right hand reached forward and snatched out a glowing energy block. Interesting, this is a Decepticon. Besides being Marvel, this universe also has Transformers. Pressing his right hand down, a fierce strong wind swept across the moon. Under the strong wind, countless metal robots were exposed on the lunar surface. They're all Decepticons. Then, if I get the chance, I can find an Autobot to drive. Not paying too much attention to the Decepticons scattered everywhere, these Cybertronians posed no threat to Amon. He already had a premonition that whatever caused Mikhail's disappearance was ahead. By continuously stealing and compressing space, the Amon avatar quickly arrived in front of a spaceship. It was a huge metal spaceship, but it was already badly damaged beyond recognition. The Amon avatar walked into the giant spaceship. It was severely damaged inside. He came to a place covered by lunar soil, swept away the dust, and revealed an equally huge metal head. Sentinel Prime. Continuing to explore, the Amon avatar found a large number of energy pillars near the spaceship. These energy pillars were products of Cybertron, which could be used to open space bridges, and were powerful spatial devices. The Amon avatar's eyes became vacant, and scene after scene appeared before his eyes. He was watching past scenes of this area. Replaying from the present to the past, it was all an unchanging barren landscape, until finally, a month ago, a change occurred. 4 astronauts arrived on this lunar land. From the flags on their spacesuits, they could be identified as astronauts from Russia. The leader, Amon recognized, was his nominal elder brother, Mikhail. They first explored the dilapidated giant spaceship, then began to explore the area around the spaceship. They came to the edge of the area where the Amon avatar was located, and they also discovered energy pillars. During their research, for some unknown reason, they triggered the energy pillars. A blue light flashed, and the 4 astronauts, including Amon's nominal elder brother, all disappeared. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories, and please support the author by link in description. Under the stimulation of the energy column, Mikhail's mutant ability was activated, which in turn stimulated the energy column, initiating spatial transmission. So troublesome. Aean avatar kicked the energy column at his feet. Innumerable overlapping doors appeared in Aean avatar's eyes. The spatial energy that had caused Mikhail and the others to disappear reappeared. Aean avatar plunged his hand into the blue energy, and his entire being vanished instantly. In the chaotic space, guided by an inspiration, Aean avatar stretched his hands forward and then tore, creating a spatial rift, and then directly leapt into it. In the pocket dimension, a orchid rift appeared, from which a pair of hands squeezed out. The hands grabbed the sides of the rift and pushed outwards, and Aean avatar emerged from within. As soon as he entered, Aean avatar's body began to mutate. His 5 fingers became short, thick, and fabric-like. He was beginning to transform into a doll. He shook his right hand, and tiny granulation tissue appeared on the mutated part, quickly restoring it to its normal appearance. This dimension will assimilate everything that enters, turning them into dolls. This means the creatures here don't need to eat, as dolls don't need food after all. Endless brilliance flashed in Aean avatar's eyes and monocle. He analyzed this dimension and gained a preliminary understanding. This dimension had nothing to do with Cybertron's energy column. The energy column only activated Mikhail's mutant ability. Mikhail and his companions came here mainly because of Mikhail's mutant ability. Sure enough, the Rasputin family's mutant abilities are all related to dimensions. Aean concluded in his mind. Suddenly, the entire pocket dimension began to shake. The ground tore apart like building blocks and then collapsed. From the cracks in the ground, a giant dragon, seemingly made of building blocks, squeezed out. As soon as it appeared, the block dragon locked onto Aean avatar and breathed out cartoonish dragon flame towards him. Ah! The master found me. It's also because I didn't deliberately conceal my aura after coming in and even resisted the dimension's rules. If he couldn't find me even then, this dimension master would be too incompetent. With a flash of starlight, Aean dodged the exhaled dragon flame, and the spot where Aean had stood was struck by the dragon flame, turning into various colored crystals. Interesting attack method. Aean avatar looked at the crystallized ground with interest. The block dragon's intelligence didn't seem very high. It didn't try to communicate with Aean avatar but continuously spewed dragon flame at him. Aean avatar's response was also very simple. He grabbed forward with his right hand, stealing all of the block dragon's attacks. Aean avatar, who was toying with the block dragon, suddenly felt a powerful sense of oppression. The world seemed to come alive, constantly folding and contracting, finally enveloping Aean avatar entirely. The space wrapping Aean avatar continuously shrank, transforming into a crystal cylinder the size of a shipping container. Shapes of doors suddenly appeared on the crystal surface, and then Aean avatar walked directly out of it. The master is coming. It doesn't look like he's easy to deal with. I'd better slip away. With that, Aean avatar transformed into sparkling starlight and dissipated. Through the simple exchange just now, Aean avatar could infer that the Dimension Master's strength had at least reached the angel level. The chances of winning a head-on confrontation were very slim, and he would need to call his main body. Therefore, Aean avatar chose to use the ability of the secrecy domain to conceal himself, and once he found Mikhail, he would take him directly, avoiding a direct conflict with the Dimension Master. With the authority of secrecy, Aean avatar would be very difficult for even the Dimension Master to find, as long as he didn't actively expose himself. Somewhere in the pocket dimension, there was a city built from building blocks, where many common Earth toys and dolls could be seen. In the center of the city was a giant arena, like the Roman Colosseum. Aean avatar, whose appearance had been transformed into AQ version, sat in the spectator stands, watching the matches below with many other dolls. Below, a toy robot had just torn a cowboy-dressed rag doll in half, with cotton flying everywhere. The dolls on the stage cheered loudly, and Aean Avatar also cheered and applauded along with them. In the very center of the spectator stands, there was a special seat. On a huge throne sat a doll wearing a crown. Aean Avatar could confirm that the crowned doll was the master of this dimension. The rag doll torn in half was not dead, the part with its head could still move. He was collecting his scattered cotton, and afterwards, he could recover simply by sewing up the torn parts, though his appearance might not be as aesthetically pleasing as before. I remember Sakar's Grandmaster also had such an arena. What a similar hobby. Aean Avatar pondered silently. He wasn't here to watch a bunch of toys fight, but because he had divined that his elder brother Mikhail was here. He just hadn't expected the Dimension Master of this dimension to also be here. This makes things a bit difficult. If the Dimension Master wasn't here, he could easily use his abilities to take Mikhail away, but now, under the Dimension Master's nose, he had to be careful. They're out. A gasp came from the spectator stands. Aean Avatar squinted and his eyes lit up. After the cowboy rag doll was cleaned off the stage, 4 astronaut-dressed dolls came up. Their appearance was like Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, but they looked very miserable. 2 of them even lacked arms and legs, and the remaining 2 had signs of repair on their bodies, seemingly from previous battles. Big brother, I found you. Aean Avatar thought to himself. The 4 astronaut dolls in the arena were Mikhail and his 3 companions. After falling into this world, they were captured by the Dimension Master's subordinates and brought to this arena to serve as gladiators. The guard doll responsible for the entrance suddenly stiffened, then took out a monocle from his arms and put it over his right eye. He was already Aean Avatar's secret puppet. Perhaps because they were all toy dolls, the intelligence level of the toy creatures here was generally equivalent to that of a 10-year-old child, including the toy robots currently in the arena. With the cooperation of Mikhail and his 3 well-trained astronauts, they easily defeated the toy robots. The 4 walked towards the entrance they came from. One of the astronauts took off his glass helmet and complained. When will this damned life end? My right arm was broken in the last fight, and I have to go for repairs again. Mikhail, the captain of the 4, seeing this, comforted him. Pavel, there will be a way out. I've already found out that star gladiators can decide their own fate in the arena. I believe it won't be long before we can leave this arena. I mean leave this toy world, Pavel grumbled. As his words fell, all 4 fell silent. Since arriving in this toy world a month ago, they had tried everything but saw no hope of leaving. Hey, do you want to leave? I can help. Just as the 4 of them returned to the arena through the entrance, the guards relaxed, teasing voice reached their ears. The group suddenly turned their heads to look at the guard puppet, their eyes like hungry jackals spotting prey. What did you say? Mikhail restrained his excited companions and asked in a deep voice. The guard puppet revealed a brilliant smile and said, I can take you out of this world. Really? This time, even the most composed Mikhail couldn't control his emotions. He truly longed to leave this toy world. Of course. The guard puppet's voice became magnetic, and its body began to squirm and deform, transforming into an Aean Avatar wearing a pointed soft hat, a classical long robe, and a crystal-ground monocle over his right eye. He had the appearance of a normal human, not a puppet. He had swapped places with the guard Bizarro Sorcerer. Now, it was his guard Bizarro Sorcerer watching the gladiatorial combat in the spectator stands. This was the ability of a Sequence 4 Bizarro Sorcerer of the Full Pathway, allowing him to swap positions with a Bizarro Sorcerer within a certain range, making the Bizarro Sorcerer the main body. Those who want to leave, come closer, the Aean Avatar said to the 4. Seeing the Aean Avatar's normal human appearance, tears almost welled up in their eyes. Since coming to this world and being transformed into these toy bodies, they hadn't seen a normal person again. The group moved closer to the Aean Avatar's body, then starlight flickered around them, followed by a dizzying sensation. By the time they reacted again, they had appeared in a desolate area, with no puppets in sight. The 4 astronauts quickly recovered from their dizziness. Mikhail, the captain, asked the Aean avatar, who was rubbing his monocle. "Are you a mutant?" "As far as I know, only mutants might have this kind of ability." "Guess," the Aean avatar said in a very annoying tone. Mikhail was speechless. Suddenly, he saw the you-know-who who saved them from the arena quickly forming hand seals he couldn't understand, and then a door made of countless starlight appeared before them. "Quickly jump into the star door, and then you can return to the real universe. We'll talk about other things later," the Aean avatar said with a noticeably urgent tone, simultaneously pushing his right hand forward, and the surroundings became quiet, as if isolated from the world. The original arena had completely turned into crystal, both the architecture and the puppets inside had become crystal. The crowned puppet walked through the crystal arena, searching for the intruder's aura. "It's that intruder from another dimension. He took those 4 people from the real dimension and ran away." Suddenly, the crowned puppet sensed something and looked towards the distant desert. "There." After muttering, the crowned puppet instantly vanished from its original spot. In the desert, the 4 astronauts were all rigorously trained. From the Aean avatar's actions and tone, they could sense that the situation was very urgent. Mikhail didn't say much, telling his teammates, "Go." The remaining 3 astronauts were also very decisive, quickly entering the star door. Seeing that his teammates had all gone in, Mikhail glanced at the Aean avatar and also stepped into the star door. The next moment, endless crystals rained down from the sky, transforming the entire desert into a crystal forest. The surrounding space was reinforced, making teleportation much more difficult. The Aean avatar didn't have time to dodge and was hit directly. Bang! The flattened Aean avatar turned into a paper figure, while the real Aean avatar appeared on top of a tall crystal, looking at the crowned puppet in the sky. "King, why so much fire? How about we sit down and talk about how to build the toy kingdom better?" As he spoke, the Aean avatar even grabbed into the void, somehow stealing a table, which he placed directly in the air, and then beckoned the crowned puppet to come and sit. The crowned puppet ignored the Aean avatar's invitation and said with an angry voice, "Intruder from another dimension, why did you take my toys?" The Aean avatar waved his hand and said with a smile, "Those people don't belong to your dimension in the first place. What's wrong with me sending them back to their original dimension? Those are King's toys, it's not up to you to let them go." An angry voice came from the sky, and endless crystal meteorites rained down. Hundreds of the blocky giant dragons the Aean avatar had seen before also emerged from the ground. They all attacked the Aean avatar together. "Hey, you're looking for helpers in a fight, so don't blame me for calling in backup," the Aean avatar said exaggeratedly, then stretched his hand into the void, seemingly dragging something. Soon, a small boy with a white shirt, denim overalls, and slightly curly hair was dragged out of the void by the Aean avatar. When he was first dragged out, the little boy's expression was still somewhat dazed, but in an instant, he became full of spirit. He first looked back speechlessly at his avatar, who shrugged, indicating that he should handle this matter. The one dragged out by the Aean avatar was indeed the historical projection of Amon's main body, a Sequence 3 scholar of Yor of the Fool Pathway. He could summon images from the cracks of history, which could be people or objects. The more detailed his understanding of the corresponding subject, the more real it would be, the greater the success rate, and the longer it would last. And for an avatar to summon the historical projection of the main body, it was, of course, 100% successful. Under normal circumstances, the historical projection of a summoned character has no consciousness, but if the historical projection of a scholar of Yor is summoned, the scholar of Yor would be aware of it and then let the main body's consciousness enter the historical projection. The current situation was that Amon's main body's consciousness had entered his historical projection to help his avatar fight. The Aean shadow first raised his right hand and waved it towards the blocky giant dragons. All the blocky giant dragons became dazed, and a crystal-ground monocle appeared over their right eyes. They all became Amon's bizarro sorcerers. Then the Aemon shadow looked at the endless meteorites falling from the sky, snapped his left finger, and the meteorite shower crashed down, but not a single one hit the Aemon shadow or the Aemon avatar. He lowered the probability of the meteorites hitting them, and thus successfully dodged the meteorite attack. "Who are you?" the crowned puppet in the high sky asked with a solemn tone, while also stopping his attack. "I'm just a kid who was pulled out to work. If you really want to call me something, you can call me Bizarro." Ignoring the crowned puppet's reaction, the Aemon shadow waved his hand forward, and a star door appeared in front of the Aemon avatar. "Goodbye." The Aemon avatar bowed to the crowned puppet in the high sky and stepped into the star door. The star door then closed, and the Aemon shadow slowly dissipated. The crowned puppet wanted to prevent the intruder from leaving by controlling the pocket dimension, but his mind somehow blurred for a moment. When he regained consciousness, he found himself unknowingly trapped in a strange space, where his control over the dimension was reduced to an extreme degree. Finally, after being lost in the strange space for 2 or 3 minutes, the crowned puppet found a way to escape and left the strange space. By then, it was impossible for him to track Amon's whereabouts. Bizarro. On the moon in the real world, a starry portal appeared, and 4 toy astronauts walked out of it. "Are we back on the moon?" Pavel asked excitedly, supporting his broken arm. Since he was on the moon, he used the radio communication inside his spacesuit. Mikhail glanced at the energy pillar beside him and moved away from it. "We should be back. This is the light pillar we encountered before we crossed over to that world. We should be back to the position we were at before crossing over." Everyone was excited, but soon someone noticed a problem. "Why are our bodies still dolls? Why haven't we changed back? How am I supposed to go back like this? Won't I be treated as a monster?" Mikhail also noticed that his body was still the doll body from that world. He hadn't realized it immediately because he had gotten used to it. He stopped his teammates' panic and said, "You know who saved us should have a way to help us return to normal. We'll wait for him to appear and ask him for help." Pavel asked eagerly. "Then where is he? Why hasn't he appeared yet?" Hearing this, Mikhail's face stiffened, and he reprimanded. "Pavel, have you forgotten our training? Learn to be patient, don't panic." Pavel was a little ashamed. "Yes, officer." Among the 4, Mikhail was a lieutenant colonel, Pavel was a captain, and the other 2 were lieutenants. Mikhail was both the officer and the captain. "When I came out, I saw you-know-who preparing something. I suspect something was preventing us from leaving that world, and he was buying us time. We'll wait here for half an hour. If he still doesn't appear, we'll look for our lunar lander and try to contact Earth." They found that in their doll bodies, their spacesuits could protect their lives very well, so they didn't have to worry about oxygen consumption. "Are you looking for me?" A voice with a hint of playfulness sounded from behind them. The 4 astronauts turned around to see a stargate appear, and Aemon avatar walked out of it. Although there was no atmosphere on the moon's surface, his voice clearly reached their ears. Mikhail, as the captain, walked over and thanked Aemon avatar. "Thank you for saving us from that world." He believed that he could hear him. He paused, looked at Aemon avatar, who was directly exposed to space without any protective gear, and asked, "Sir, why haven't our bodies returned to normal? Why are we still in this doll form?" Aemon avatar adjusted his monocle and said with a smile, "That's because your bodies were assimilated by the rules of that small dimension after entering it, and the rules of the real world are very inclusive, capable of accommodating the rules on your bodies. Therefore, your bodies were not assimilated back to their original forms by the real world. Then how can we recover?" Mikhail pressed. "It's simple. Make a wish to me. You all have faith. Just as you normally pray to your gods, make a wish to me. Make a wish." The few of them exchanged glances, somewhat disbelieving. However, even turning into toys had happened, so it was possible for wishes to come true. "Then, what should we call you?" Mikhail asked a crucial question. Aemon avatar pinched his chin and said, "Then you must remember well, my honorific name is." He paused, then said in a grand and layered voice, "The master of time and space, the thief of destiny, the embodiment of mystery and change." The few of them were stunned by this voice, which came with its own special effects, for a while. Mikhail was the first to react and said to his teammates, "I'll try first." With that, Mikhail placed his hands in front of his chest, in a prayer-like posture, and whispered, "The master of time and space, the thief of destiny, the embodiment of mystery and change, I pray to you to restore my body to normal." Snap. Aeon Avatar snapped his fingers and said with a smile, "Your wish has been granted." Mikhail's body began to change, returning to the appearance of a normal person, and his spacesuit no longer felt plastic-like. It really recovered. The remaining 3 astronauts were instantly excited when they saw Mikhail recover, wanting to make a wish to restore themselves. "Hey, you two with missing arms and legs, remember to wish for your limbs to be restored when you make your wishes. Don't say I didn't warn you." Seeing the 3 astronauts about to make their wishes, Aeon Avatar kindly reminded them. Hearing Aeon Avatar's reminder, the 2 astronauts were first stunned, then looked at Aeon Avatar with grateful eyes. If Aeon Avatar hadn't reminded them, they might not have thought of restoring their severed limbs. "Thank you." The 2 bowed to Aeon. Next, the remaining 3 also made their wishes separately. With Aeon Avatar's snap of the fingers, they also quickly recovered their normal appearances, and their severed limbs were restored. It was not Aeon Avatar who granted their wishes, he was merely an intermediary. The one who truly helped them realize their wishes was his main body, far away on Earth. After leaving the pocket dimension, Aeon Avatar's connection with his main body was no longer obstructed, and he could easily transmit power. Moreover, the few of them had also chanted Amon's honorific name, establishing a connection with Aeon. The Full Pathway Sequence 2, Miracle Invoker. A miracle invoker can create miracles and grant wishes. By granting small wishes to others over time and accumulating these small wishes, they can use the accumulated wishes to create miracles and grant their own wishes when needed. Clap, clap, clap. Applause sounded. Although there was no medium for sound, they could hear Aeon Avatar's applause. However, after witnessing his various strange abilities, they were no longer surprised by this. "Gentlemen, you now have 2 choices. 1. I leave now, and you find your own spaceship to return to Earth. 2. I take you back to Earth." This was clearly only one option. If we find the spaceship ourselves, who knows if the lunar lander will still be usable? Mikhail immediately said, "We choose the second one." The remaining 3 nodded, without objection. "Sir, do we need to keep your information confidential?" Mikhail asked again. "No need. A title is meant to be praised. Why hide it?" Aeon Avatar adjusted his monocle and answered Mikhail's question. "All right, now I'll send you back to Earth." With that, Aeon Avatar clapped his hands, and starlight appeared on their bodies, and then the 4 astronauts disappeared. Aeon Avatar did not return to Earth. He looked at the energy pillars on the moon's surface, first collecting all of them. Then he looked at the vast moon and whispered, "There are quite a few secrets on the moon." Aeon Avatar continued his exploration of the moon. Inside the Russian Federal Space Agency, it was still brightly lit. They were still busy with the secret lunar orbit project. Suddenly, starlight began to converge, and everyone's attention was drawn to it. Enveloped in starlight, 4 astronauts in spacesuits appeared. "It's Lieutenant Colonel Mikhail. Weren't they out of contact? How did they suddenly appear?" The control room instantly fell into chaos. The white-haired commander quickly came before them. The commander first adjusted the monocle on his right eye, then laughed heartily. "Excellent, excellent, excellent. Our heroes, welcome back." At Amon's family farm, Aeon was leaning against a wall, basking in the sun. Mikhail had already been found. The commander at the space agency was possessed by one of his clones, so there was no need to worry about his safety. It wouldn't be long before the news of Mikhail's well-being reached his parents, and they wouldn't have to worry anymore. Suddenly, a small hand reached out from the wall behind Aeon and covered Amon's eyes. "Hee, Aeon, guess who I am? I guess it's Charmander." Aeon played along with a guess. "Wrong guess, it's Liana." Little Liana's whole body phased through the wall and pounced onto Amon's back. "Aeon, you're so boring, always just looking at the sun. Look at me, I can walk through walls now. Little Liana demonstrated her new ability to Amon. She walked towards the wall, seamlessly disappearing into it, and then walked out of it again. Amazing. Amazing. Amon clapped and praised her. Amon, why do I feel like you're not really praising me? The little girl pouted. She always felt like Amon wasn't praising her, but rather mocking her. Of course I'm praising you, you're my dear little sister. It's big sister. Hearing, little sister, little Liana instinctively retorted. After some playful banter, little Liana sat beside Amon and said with a downcast expression. Amon, is big brother really still alive? Dad and second brother didn't say anything when they came back. Did big brother die? Big brother is definitely still alive, he's on his way home right now. I'm not a child anymore, you're just comforting me, aren't you? How could that be? What I'm saying is true. Amon paused, then said in a joking tone. Little Liana, actually, I'm a reincarnated god. I can grant any wish you have. You can wish for big brother to return safely. Little Liana clearly didn't believe him, pouting and saying. You, a god? I don't believe it. If you're really a reincarnated god, then so am I. You still don't believe me? Then I'll show you. With that, Amon placed his hands under his chin and whispered. I wish for us to travel into the galaxy and witness the beautiful cosmos. As his words fell, the surroundings first blurred, the sun vanished, and the void was dotted with countless brilliant stars, forming a beautiful galaxy. Wow! It's so beautiful! Little Liana exclaimed, she had never seen such a beautiful sight. See, I didn't lie to you. Amon said with a proud smile. Little Liana was captivated by the beautiful scenery, only giving a simple two-word reply. After a while, little Liana came back to her senses, looked at Amon, and her eyes were filled with adoration. You really can grant wishes. Then, I want to make a wish to you. I hope big brother Mikhail can come home safely. Clap. Amon clapped his hands. All right, your wish has been granted. Big brother is on his way home right now. Thank you, Amon. The little girl wiped away tears from the corners of her eyes. All right, don't cry. Oh, and don't tell mom and dad about today's events, they'll worry. Don't tell Peter either. And don't tell them about you being able to walk through walls. Mikhail was in the car on his way home. He felt that recent events had been too surreal. An accident during the lunar mission, being trapped in another world for over a month, being rescued by a suspected divine being, and returning to the space agency. He had expected to be interrogated extensively, as their experience was too fantastical, involving both a toy world and a mysterious entity. But unexpectedly, after only a brief record-taking, he was informed that everything was fine and given a month's leave. He had asked the commander-in-chief, and the commander's explanation at the time was, "You've been missing for over a month, your family is very worried, hurry home and see them." He stopped thinking about those strange things because they were almost at the farm. He wondered how Amon and Ileana were doing, it had been a year since they last met. Here. Soon the car arrived at the farm, and from the car, Mikhail saw everyone waiting for him. The news of his return had been sent to his family a day in advance, so Amon and the others were waiting outside. Quickly parking the car, Mikhail didn't bother with his luggage. Instead, he first ran over to hug his parents, then gave Peter a firm bump. Mikhail then turned his gaze to the two little ones on the side. Hi. Amon, Ileana, did you miss your big brother? HMPH. If big brother goes missing again, Liana won't play with you. It's best that big brother came back safely. Haha. Amon is still the sensible one. Big brother won't go missing again. This time, I have a month's leave, so I'll play with our little princess properly. Peter took Mikhail's luggage from the car and said to the group, who were chatting animatedly. Big brother, don't stand outside anymore. Let's go inside and catch up properly. You can tell us all about your experiences during this time. Okay. Meanwhile, far across the ocean in the U.S., Westchester County, New York, at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Professor Charles Xavier, still with his beautiful black hair, emerged from the Cerebro chamber. Every so often, he would use the Cerebro to search for mutants around the world, inviting them to the X school to be educated and helped in mastering their mutant abilities. Beast Hank came up behind Charles, pushing Charles's wheelchair. As they walked outside, he asked, "Professor, have you found any new mutants?" "I found 3, and they seem to be a family, all together. But the location is a bit far, in Siberia." Hearing this, Beast Hank continued to ask, "Should we go invite them now?" Charles waved his hand, denying it. "No, we'll go after tonight's evening class. If we go now, it will still be night there due to the time difference. We can't disturb their rest." "You have a point, haha, you're still so thoughtful, Professor." It was already the next day at Amon's family farm. Mikhail's excuse for his disappearance to his family was that during a mission on the moon, they encountered a small solar flare. The powerful electromagnetic shock damaged many of the spacecraft's instruments, causing them to lose contact with Earth. It took the astronauts a long time to re-establish contact with Earth and successfully return. Now, little Liana was being taken to play by Mikhail. Aemon didn't join them, enjoying the rare opportunity to quietly bask in the sun alone. Suddenly, Amon's eyes narrowed. He sensed something approaching. After carefully sensing it, he thought to himself, "Such strong psychic power, it's the same person as last night." On Earth, the only being with such powerful psychic abilities could be Professor X. Is he here to recruit students after sensing that Peter and the others have become mutants? Soon, a loud roar came from the sky. A fighter jet, far beyond this era, descended from the sky and landed on the open ground in front of Amon's family farm. The cabin door of the fighter jet opened, and Professor Charles Xavier, dressed in a suit, was pushed out of the plane by Beast Hank. It was a mystery how Professor X could disembark from the plane wearing only a suit in such cold Siberian weather. Perhaps he was wearing thermal underwear. Seeing Aemon, Professor X signaled Beast Hank to push the wheelchair over. "Child, is that your home?" Professor X asked Aemon, pointing at the farm behind him. "Yes, sir, if you have something, go find my parents yourself. I won't take you there." Professor X and Beast Hank exchanged glances, not expecting Aemon to answer like that. Beast Hank, pushing Professor X, asked, "Professor, is he the mutant you sensed?" Professor X placed his fingers to his temples and began to sense Amon's brainwaves. "He's not the mutant I sensed yesterday. His brainwaves are different, but they are very strange, like..." Professor X's voice suddenly froze. After a deeper connection with Amon's brainwaves, something terrifying and bizarre happened. Charles felt his thoughts, which he could usually control at will, had changed. Each one seemed to have come alive, with its own mind, beginning to do what it wanted, and what Charles did not want to do. He felt as if his brain was connected not to a person, but to the entire world, the entire universe. He sensed a vast amount of complex and irregular things changing. He sensed distorted, bizarre, and crazy voices echoing in his mind. He sensed knowledge that was high above and contained everything, yet he understood nothing and remembered nothing. Suddenly, that feeling disappeared, and his connection to Amon's brainwaves was severed. "Who, ha?" Charles suddenly straightened his body. If not for his paralyzed legs, he might have stood directly from his wheelchair. The world was still buzzing. Charles wiped his nose with his hand and looked down to see crimson blood. Beast Hank had clearly noticed Professor X's abnormality and asked, "Professor, what's wrong with you?" Charles took out a handkerchief, wiped his nosebleed clean, and replied, "Nothing." Beast Hank frowned and said, "You don't look like nothing is wrong." At this moment, Amon's voice came, "Sir, casually probing other people's brains is not a good habit. Be careful not to see what you shouldn't." "I apologize, I was presumptuous." Charles had no airs and apologized directly to Aemon. Through the contact in the psychic domain just now, Charles could confirm that the little boy in front of him was definitely not an ordinary person. He had never had that feeling before. The only comparable experience was when he sensed the mind of Phoenix Jean Grey. At that time, Phoenix Gene's mind had not yet been sealed by him. It was a power that seemed to be able to destroy and create everything. That power was controlled by a tyrannical and mad mind. A slight mistake could potentially destroy this world. He had no choice but to seal part of Phoenix Gene's mind, thereby suppressing that terrifying power. And Phoenix Gene was the only Omega-level mutant Charles had ever encountered. Charles composed himself and asked Amon, "Child, what is your name?" "Amon, Amon Rasputin. Just call me Amon." Amon looked up at this Professor X, who was a bit different from his impression. This Professor X still had hair and was not the bald figure he remembered. He also looked younger. The things Professor X sensed just now were deliberately allowed by Amon for him to sense. "Do not look directly at God," was the best description of what Professor X felt just now. As Aean grew up and continuously accommodated and digested Beander characteristics, Aean had long been a true mythical creature, the kind that ordinary people would have their sanity points reset to 0 and directly go mad and die just by looking at him. However, since crossing over to this world and first using his abilities, Aean learned to restrain the influence brought by his mythical creature nature. Otherwise, the Rasputin family would have long died or turned into monsters, and the entire Siberia would have fallen, becoming a monster paradise. Allowing Professor X to touch a part of his essence was to let him learn a lesson, to prevent him from often probing his and his family's brains. Professor X's telepathy was indeed powerful, and to some extent, it could rival an angel skilled in the psychic domain, but his essence had not changed, and he was no different from an ordinary person. Aean, you should be able to feel your difference from others. I can take you to a place full of your kind, where everyone, like you, possesses extraordinary abilities. Professor X chuckled. Aean glanced at Professor X, still lying there sunbathing, with no intention of getting up. Go ask my parents. Don't disturb my sunbathing. At this moment, the door of a nearby house opened, and Mikhail, hearing the commotion, came out. Seeing the fighter jet in the distance, Mikhail's expression became serious. He took out his pistol and tucked it into his waistband. He quickly walked towards Aean and the others, saying as he walked, "Aean, come here." "Big brother, don't worry, they are here to recruit students," Aean shouted. As he got closer, Mikhail also clearly saw who the visitors were. He knew both of them. Professor Charles Xavier and Beast Hank, the friendly faction among mutants, who established the Mutant Academy to take in mutants, always maintained a friendly attitude towards humans, and repeatedly helped humans solve problems. "Mr. Xavier, Mr. McCoy, I am Lieutenant Colonel Mikhail Nikolaevich Rasputin of the Russian Federation Air Force. Is there something you two need?" "Lieutenant Colonel Mikhail, is it all right to address you like that?" Professor X politely inquired. Of course, Mikhail nodded. "Lieutenant Colonel Mikhail, since you know us, you must know what we do. To be frank, we are here to recruit students." "Recruit students? Are you saying there's a mutant in my family? How is that possible?" "Lieutenant Colonel Mikhail, don't get agitated. Mutants all have special abilities, and my brain can sense the difference in brainwaves between ordinary people and mutants. Yesterday, I sensed 3 mutants in your home." As Professor X said this, he originally intended to read Mikhail's brainwaves to verify if he was a mutant, but remembering his recent experience, he lowered the hand that was reaching for his temple. Mikhail's eyes darkened, and he said to the two, "Please come inside first. We can discuss the matter of mutants in detail." You mean, I, Peter, and Ileana are all mutants? Isn't that too much of a coincidence, that all of us siblings are mutants? Mikhail asked incredulously. He had never heard of an entire family being mutants. Professor X nodded and said with certainty, "That's right. After sensing your brainwaves, you are indeed mutants. There's no mistake about it." Liana, sitting on the sofa, gripped the key necklace around her neck, feeling a bit uneasy. "Liana, it's all right." Peter noticed his younger sister's unease and comforted her. Nikolai sat on the sofa, having remained silent. Suddenly, he looked at Peter, nodded, and said, "Peter, show them your ability. Hiding it forever isn't a solution." Upon hearing this, Peter stood up. He concentrated for a moment, and his body began to swell, his skin surface started to take on a metallic sheen, and even his hair turned metallic. Mikhail was very surprised. His brother really was a mutant. Am I a mutant too? At this moment, he thought of something, looked at Liana, and asked, Ileana, do you also have special abilities? Liana hesitated for a long time, unable to say anything. She still remembered Amon telling her not to let anyone else know about her special abilities. It's normal for a young girl to be nervous and scared, rushing these things is useless. Professor X explained, believing Liana was just a bit frightened by her sudden exposure to all this. Amon, who had arrived in the living room at some point, sat directly beside little Liana and said, Liana, don't worry, just show them the ability you showed me before. Encouraged by Amon's words, little Liana nodded, okay. She walked to the wall, pointed at it with her finger, and then, under the incredulous gazes of everyone in the room, passed through it. Her entire body went through the wall, and she emerged from the other side. This was not Liana's mutant ability, but rather an ability granted by the key Amon gave her. Because Liana was still young, Amon had limited the key's abilities. Phasing through walls was the only ability Liana could safely use at the moment. At this moment, Mother Alexandra asked Nikolai, did you know about the children's special abilities all along and kept it from me? Nikolai immediately broke out in a cold sweat and quickly explained, haha, my dear, how could I? You were very low-spirited at the time, so I didn't tell you. Then, when Mikhail came back, I was so happy I forgot. HMPH. Alexandra snorted, not pursuing the matter, as there were still guests present. After the small squabble ended, Mikhail asked Professor X, Mr. Charles, you said I'm a mutant, but I haven't discovered any special abilities in myself. That's normal, Lieutenant Colonel Mikhail. Many mutant abilities are latent and very difficult to discover without external stimulation. You are one of them. You need to pay close attention in your daily life to avoid causing accidents. Since Professor X had correctly identified both his younger brother and sister as mutants, Mikhail had no doubts and nodded, agreeing with Professor X's statement. I will pay attention. After a pause, Mikhail looked at his parents. They nodded at Mikhail, entrusting the decision to their eldest son. They often saw news about mutants on television and knew that people held a hostile view towards them. Although the couple had no particular opinion about mutants themselves, their children would eventually have to interact with the outside world. Peter needed to go to school, and Amon and Ileana were also of schooling age. Once their classmates discovered they were mutants, they would surely be ostracized. As an Air Force lieutenant colonel, Mikhail surely understood these matters better than they did, so entrusting the decision to him was definitely the right choice. All right. I agree to Peter and Ileana attending your Mutant Academy. As for me, you wouldn't accept a federal officer, would you? Mikhail made his decision, adding a playful remark at the end. Haha. Lieutenant Colonel Mikhail, if you wish to come, we would certainly welcome you. Professor X and Beast Hank also laughed. No, I don't want to go. I want to go to school with Amon. At this moment, Liana, who had been listening to their conversation, became unhappy and retorted. She had long planned to go to school with Amon. Seeing this, Professor X remembered something and added, I almost forgot to mention, your brother Amon can also come to our school. Although I can't confirm if he is a mutant, I can definitely say he is not an ordinary person. He might be a rare Omega level mutant, also known as a level 5 mutant. He gives me a similar feeling to another Omega level mutant in my academy. Omega level mutant, Mikhail murmured. He knew the meaning of the term. The mutant leader before him, Charles Xavier, was an alpha level mutant, a level 4 mutant. Another well-known level 4 mutant was the other leader of the mutants, Magneto Eric Lenscher, who was wanted by governments across the world. Both of them made the governments of the entire world wary. An Omega level mutant was one level higher than a level 4, a level 5 mutant, meaning their abilities were infinite. You mean Amon can also go to that school? Then I want to go too. Liana, hearing that Aemon could also go, quickly declared that she wanted to go too, while also tugging at Aemon beside her. You want to go too, right? Alright, if you go, I'll go with you. Aemon said helplessly. He didn't care, it was all the same no matter where he went. Yay, we're going to school together. Little Lyanna cheered happily. These two little ones have such a good relationship. Professor X remarked, which reminded him of his own childhood when Raven was still by his side. Haha, these two little ones grew up together since childhood, of course their relationship is good. Peter, Aemon, Lyanna, when you get to school, you must listen to the professor and teachers, and you must take good care of yourselves. Mikhail and Nikolai were bidding farewell to Aemon and the others. Peter, Aemon, and Lyanna also stood in the fighter jet hangar, saying goodbye to their parents. Father, mother, take care. Aemon also bid farewell to his parents, and at the same time, he bestowed a blessing upon the two elders. They would be very fortunate thereafter, encountering no accidents or illnesses. This was the power of destiny. The X-Men's fighter jet, with a speed exceeding Mach 2, reached its destination in less than 3 hours. Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters is located in Westchester County, New York. The entire academy is actually a large estate. Professor Charles Xavier was born into a wealthy family. In his youth, he met Magneto Eric, and together they fought for the cause of mutants and saved the world. Later, their ideals clashed, and they went their separate ways. Professor Charles Xavier then established the Mutant Academy on his family estate, taking in mutant brethren from all over the world. Aurora, these are our new brethren. They are siblings. Please find a few rooms for them. Aurora Munro, codenamed Storm, was a stunning black woman with white hair. She had recently joined Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Her ability was weather manipulation, and she also possessed inherited magic. She was a top-tier level 4 mutant. Considering that Aemon and Lyanna were still young, they were assigned to one room. As for Peter, he was taken to another dormitory, where his roommate would be waiting for him. After tidying up and arranging their belongings, Aemon asked Lyanna, who was full of fresh curiosity, "Lyanna, how do you feel?" Still immersed in the new environment, Lyanna excitedly replied, "That plane was amazing. I saw the sun slowly setting in the sky before my eyes, and now it has completely gone down. It really was fast. The X-Men's jet was indeed black technology, capable of traveling anywhere in the world within 2 to 3 hours. Most importantly, it didn't require mid-flight refueling, its energy was entirely sufficient." The door opened, revealing Peter, followed by a cool man wearing sunglasses. "Aemon, Lyanna, are you ready? The professor wants to teach us some basic knowledge and told us to go now." In 2008, Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, inside a classroom. Lyanna sat bored in her classroom seat, fiddling with a toy dragon, a birthday gift Aemon had given her. Ms. Munro was lecturing a tedious lesson at the front, which Lyanna had no desire to listen to. After all, she could learn those things with just a glance, so why bother listening to someone else speak? Lyanna turned her head to look at Aemon on her right, surprised to find that Aemon was actually listening attentively, even taking notes with a pen from time to time. Lyanna narrowed her eyes, she didn't believe Aemon would seriously listen to the lesson. She quietly picked up a pencil from the desk and threw it at Aemon. Under Lyanna's gaze, the pencil passed through Aemon without any resistance. As expected, Lyanna thought, that hateful Aemon, skipping class again without telling me. She wanted to expose the truth that the Aemon here was a fake, but then she reconsidered. If she exposed Aemon, she wouldn't be able to escape either, so she might as well find an opportunity to slip away herself. She could also create illusions, though not as realistic as Amon's. Deciding to act, she grabbed the key pendant around her neck, and a slightly dull-looking Lyanna appeared in front of her. Then she leaned back, and a quiet blue door of light appeared behind her, catching her. The moment the door of light closed, Lyanna saw everyone in the classroom looking at her. "Oh no, I forgot how loud the portal is." Lyanna flipped over and landed steadily on the grass. She had teleported to a grassy area within the manor. Never mind, I don't care. I'm out anyway. She looked around and found Amon on the top of the clock tower. He seemed to be sunbathing, but his eyes were staring intently at the sun. Liana opened another portal and went directly to the top of the clock tower, next to Amon. You're sunbathing again. What's the point of sunbathing? Amon chuckled and said, I'm not sunbathing, I'm observing the creatures inside the sun. Liana scoffed and said, TCH, you're trying to trick me again. How could there be creatures in the sun? Believe it or not, there's a big fellow inside the sun. It's developing, and the day it's born will be the end of the world. I don't believe it. Liana indicated that she didn't believe his words. I already said, believe it or not. Amon repeated the same words, his eyes still fixed on the sun. Liana ignored Amon's words and continued. Amon, let's go find Godzilla. Such a big monster that can shoot light beams, it's so cool. The news says it's hidden in the deep sea, and with your abilities, you can definitely find it. 2 months ago, 2 giant mantis-like creatures caused destruction in San Francisco. The human army was helpless against the 2 monsters, and eventually, Godzilla intervened and dealt with them. Godzilla's magnificent atomic breath instantly captivated Liana, making her declare herself a fan of Godzilla. Amon took off his monocle, wiped it, and put it back on. I don't want to go. You should really practice your abilities. You're currently using the abilities of the key necklace, and you haven't really practiced your own mutant abilities. Plus, your teleportation is a mess. Think about how you're going to explain this to Peter and Professor. What? How did you know? You must have arranged this on purpose. Also, I have been practicing my abilities. Look, armor has appeared. Liana raised her right hand, and blue energy emerged. Pieces of metal-like but not metal-like armor appeared, slowly enveloping her entire right arm, forming a magnificent arm guard. See, isn't it amazing? I also have a lightsaber. Liana concentrated, and a lightsaber appeared in her right hand, slowly lengthening until it was half the length of Liana's body. Hee, cool, right? Liana said with a hint of pride. Amon adjusted his monocle and commented, seemingly seriously. It's quite magnificent, but it's all show and no substance. Suitable for a Hollywood blockbuster. Liana retorted indignantly. What did you say? This is already very powerful, you're just jealous of my cool abilities. Amon pouted and snapped his fingers, saying, what's armor that only covers the arm? If you're going to play, you have to play with a full set of armor. As his words fell, Amon's body also began to glow blue. A set of armor, identical to Liana's arm guard, covered his body. The difference was that Liana's armor only covered her arm, while Amon's armor covered his entire body. The armor was bright silver overall, with graceful curves, faintly emitting a white glow, exuding nobility and dominance. Liana's eyes widened, looking at Amon's armor in disbelief. How did you do that? Hey, it's very simple. I learned it after seeing it once. Simple energy utilization, you're just too lazy. Don't use your weird abilities, let's fight. Liana was unconvinced and wanted to spar with Amon. Alright. Oh, Ms. Munro, why are you here? Amon pointed behind Liana and exclaimed in surprise. Ah, Sister Oro, I wasn't skipping class, I came to drag Amon back. He's the one who's really skipping class. Liana hurriedly turned her head to explain, only to find no one behind her. That hateful Amon, you tricked me again. Liana glared at Amon. Amon feigned innocence, trying to explain, when suddenly he pointed behind Liana again. Ms. Munro. You still want to trick me? Watch me punish you. Liana was so angry she laughed. Miss Ileana, you've skipped class again. Storm's, Oro's, voice came from behind. Liana shivered and awkwardly turned her head. Sister Oro, what a coincidence, you're also here to enjoy the breeze. Come see me later, I need to give you a private lesson. Oro said irritably. Sister Oro, I didn't skip class, I came to catch Amon. Look, Amon really skipped class. Saying this, Liana pointed behind her. She wanted to use Amon as a shield. At this moment, the door at the top of the clock tower opened, and Amon walked out, saying to Oro, "I was right, Ms. Munro, Liana would definitely come here if she skipped class." Liana realized something was wrong. She turned around and saw that the Amon behind her had long since disappeared. She understood, Amon had played a trick on her. Liana, skipping class is bad. Hurry up and go for extra lessons with Ms. Munro." Before leaving, Amon didn't forget to provoke Liana one last time. Liana gritted her teeth. She decided not to talk to that annoying Amon for the rest of the day. In the Bronx, New York City, poverty rates are high, and healthcare resources and environmental issues are prominent. The incidence of disease among residents in this district has long been the highest in New York City. A middle-aged man, accompanied by a very pale little girl, entered a building. They went to the third floor and knocked on a door. A sign on the door read "Open black lens bracket, cure all ailments, close black lens bracket." Thump, thump, thump. After 3 knocks, the door opened. A young man wearing a monocle opened the door and invited the two inside. "Please, come in, both of you." After sitting down, the middle-aged man eagerly said, "Sir, my daughter has leukemia. We have been treating her for half a year, even tried chemotherapy, but nothing has worked. Our savings are almost depleted. We heard that the illnesses of patients who have come to you mysteriously disappear, so we are here today to ask you to save my daughter." After listening to the middle-aged man's story, the young man nodded slightly, adjusted his monocle, and said with a smile, "Then you are truly lucky to have found me. Your daughter's illness will soon disappear." The young man turned his gaze to the little girl and said in a gentle tone, "My cute little angel, stretch out your hand." The young man had a magical charisma, and under his gaze, the little girl extended her hand. The young man placed his hand on the little girl's hand. The middle-aged man watched intently. Suddenly, he felt a flash of light from the monocle the young man was wearing, and then the young man released the little girl's hand. "Sir, your daughter's illness is cured. You can take your daughter to the hospital for a checkup. If you have any more problems, you can come find me." The man hadn't understood what had happened. The young man in front of him had only touched his daughter's hand and then declared her cured. "Sir, this." The middle-aged man looked at his daughter and found that her complexion seemed to have genuinely improved, no longer so pale. "Emma, how do you feel?" the man asked his daughter. "Daddy, my body doesn't hurt anymore, I feel much more comfortable," the little girl whispered. The middle-aged man's mouth gaped slightly, and his breathing stopped for a few seconds. Then he rose from the chair, knelt halfway in front of the little girl, and hugged her excitedly. "It's good, no pain is good, comfortable is good," his words began to choke. The middle-aged man remembered something, took out an envelope from his pocket, placed it on the table, and said excitedly, "Sir, thank you so much. This is $5,000. I can't offer more. Thank you for saving my daughter." After speaking, the middle-aged man wanted to kowtow to the young man several times, but a hand held his shoulder, preventing him from bowing down. At the same time, the envelope was handed back, with a small booklet added to it. "You are a good father. Money is not important to me, and I don't heal people for money. If you truly want to thank me, then read this book carefully." The middle-aged man took the booklet and saw the words on it. The cover had several large characters, "Mysterious Gospel Record. I will, our whole family will." After seeing the middle-aged man and his daughter off, Amon sat back in the boss's chair. This Amon was one of Amon's avatars, and there were many such avatars, distributed throughout the world. These avatars stole the patient's diseases through theft, thereby achieving the effect of healing. Amon often gave a small booklet, "Mysterious Gospel Record," to the treated patients to spread his teachings. After a considerable period of accumulation, there were already many followers of Amon in the world. Amon had discovered long ago that using abilities involving authority was very strenuous, but with followers and anchors, using those abilities became much easier. Amon's healing was not entirely for proselytizing. Doing good was one aspect, and accumulating diseases was another. The accumulated diseases could also be used as a means of attack. Directly giving a large number of diseases to the enemy in battle was an easy means of attack. Knock knock knock. Another knock on the door came. Amon got up and opened the door. This time, outside the door were two men in black suits. In Manhattan, New York, in front of a ballroom called Different Ballroom, Pepper Potts, CEO Tony Stark's personal assistant, glanced at the ballroom and walked over with her bodyguard, Happy. Tony Stark had been missing for almost 3 months since he went to Afghanistan to demonstrate Stark Industries' Jericho missile. The media could no longer keep it a secret. Stark Industries' stock had been falling, Stark Industries needed Stark, and Pepper Potts also needed Tony. In these 3 months, Pepper Potts had tried many methods, including seeking help from the military, finding agent organizations, and hiring mercenaries, but she had not found any trace of Tony. Desperate, Pepper Potts accidentally heard from a partner that the owner of the Different Ballroom was a very mysterious person, capable of completing any task entrusted to him, and was suspected of being supported by an organization spanning the world. After several inquiries, Pepper, accompanied by Tony's bodyguard Happy, came to this Different Ballroom to seek the help of its owner. Upon reaching the entrance, Pepper noticed 2 security guards. As she approached, the security guards stopped her, pointing to the monocle on their right eye, indicating that to enter, one must wear a monocle. Pepper nodded, took out the monocle she had prepared earlier from her pocket, and put it on her right eye. Happy, who followed behind, also put on a monocle. This was the rule of the Different Ballroom: to enter the Different Ballroom, one must wear a monocle. Pepper had already inquired about this and had prepared monocles in advance. Seeing that both of them had put on their monocles, the security guards moved aside, allowing them to enter. Through a not-so-spacious passage, Pepper and Happy arrived at the main bar. Pepper said to the bartender wiping glasses behind the bar, "Sir, I am Pepper Potts of Stark Industries. I have something important to discuss with your boss." Upon hearing this, the bartender looked up and sized up Pepper and Happy. He tossed the glass in his left hand backward, and the glass arced perfectly into the glass rack. Happy, like a comedic foil, exaggerated, "How amazing." Pepper turned her head and gave Happy a blank stare. Happy gave an awkward smile, "Ha ha." The bartender adjusted the monocle on his right eye and said to the two with a smile, "To see the boss, go up the right side passage to the second black door on the 3rd floor. The boss is there. Thank you." After thanking him, Pepper led Happy towards the location the bartender had told them. Soon, they arrived in front of the black door on the 3rd floor. Happy went up and knocked twice on the door. Soon, a voice from inside said, "Enter," and then the door opened. The two did not hesitate and entered the room. The interior was more spacious than expected. From the outside, it was impossible to tell how large the room was. There were more than a dozen people inside, all wearing identical suits and monocles. They were seated around a round table, seemingly playing some game. Pepper frowned. She hadn't expected so many people inside. After a slight pause, she asked, "Gentlemen, may I ask who the boss is?" "I am." Before Pepper could finish speaking, a voice rang out, "Darkness falls, close your eyes." Then the entire room plunged into darkness, without a trace of light, as if the light had been stolen. A few seconds later, the voice sounded again, "Day breaks, open your eyes." Number 3, dead. Are they playing werewolf? Happy wondered in his heart. Light filled the room again. A young man came before Pepper, bowed very gentlemanly, and asked, "Ms. Potts, are you looking for me?" Pepper nodded. She wasn't surprised that he knew her name. After all, she was Tony Stark's secretary and quite well known. "Sir, may I ask your name?" "Klein Moretti, just call me Klein," the man introduced himself. "Mr. Moretti, I have an urgent matter to discuss with you. Could we go to a more private room?" As she spoke, Pepper looked at the group of people watching behind her, implying that there were too many people here. Happy, who was behind Pepper, felt something was off. He clearly remembered there were 13 people in the room when they first entered, but now, counting them, there were only 12. Am I under too much stress lately? I'm even miscounting people, Happy thought to himself. Although Happy's personality was a bit erratic, his professional skills were very strong. He had noted down the people in the room as soon as he entered, but now he found the number was off. However, Happy didn't pay it much mind, dismissing it as his own way. Klein led the two to an empty room and said to them, "This room is soundproofed. If you have any questions, you can discuss them here." Pepper nodded and said, "Mr. Moretti, you should already know that Tony Stark hasn't shown his face in a long time. Just as the rumors say, he's missing. He disappeared after going to Afghanistan. I've used every method I have, but I haven't found any news of Tony. Now, I can only place my hope in you. I understand, Ms. Potts. You want to entrust me with finding Mr. Stark. Could you provide more information? It would help me better dispatch people to search for Mr. Stark." Pepper nodded, elaborating on Tony Stark's experiences before his disappearance. He was in Afghanistan to demonstrate Stark Industries' latest missile to the military, and then. Klein listened and nodded, pulling out a pen and a notebook from somewhere to record everything, showing a diligent approach to his work. "Very well, I fully understand what you've told me. I will inform our people to find Mr. Stark. Within 2 days, we will bring Mr. Stark back within 2 days." What? Pepper instinctively agreed, then realized something was wrong. What did he mean by bringing Stark back in 2 days? Could it be that their people kidnapped Tony? "You can find Tony in 2 days. It's not that I don't believe you, but that sounds too incredible." Klein adjusted his monocle and smiled, saying, "Madam, please trust our abilities. There are very few things in the world that we cannot accomplish. Our people have already begun to act. Please wait patiently for my news." Klein returned to the room with over a dozen people. "All right, let's continue." On the round table, a translucent insect with 12 segments writhed continuously, making a human-like sound. Hey, the game has just begun, and I haven't done anything yet. Which guy killed me? In the desert of Afghanistan, a Ratchet was speeding across the sand, followed by 2 armed helicopters attacking Ratchet. Suddenly, the sand behind Ratchet quickly writhed, and a drilling machine emerged from the sand, pouncing towards Ratchet. At this moment, Ratchet's cargo compartment opened, and Tony Stark, carrying a modified energy cannon, aimed at the pouncing Bonecrusher. Ratchet, sharp right turn. The speeding Ratchet immediately performed a beautiful drift, dodging the pouncing Bonecrusher. Tony Stark seized the opportunity and hit Bonecrusher with a single shot. Hit by a weapon modified by Tony Stark, the Weapon Master, Bonecrusher immediately lost its ability to move and lay paralyzed in the sand. The cargo compartment closed again, and Tony Stark asked Ratchet, "How far is the U.S. military base?" A mechanical voice with emotion came from the empty cockpit. "Tony, according to the information you entered, it's 7 kilometers to the U.S. military base you mentioned. I hope we can last until then." Tony Stark threw the scrapped energy cannon in his hand aside. This was a temporary modification using the only weapon on Ratchet and his scrapped Mark I. Although its power was immense, capable of knocking down the Decepticon Bonecrusher in one hit, it could only be used once. After being kidnapped by terrorists, Tony Stark built the Iron Man armor Mark I in a cave and successfully escaped. After escaping, he headed towards the U.S. military base he remembered and finally waited for 2 U.S. military helicopters. But what he didn't expect was that those 2 helicopters would transform into giant robots and try to kill him there. Fortunately, at a critical moment, a robot in the shape of a Ratchet saved him. Through his communication with Ratchet, Tony Stark learned that Ratchet was indeed called Ratchet, was an Autobot from Cybertron, and those trying to kill him were Decepticons. The Autobots came to Earth to stop the Decepticons from destroying Earth. Coincidentally, where he landed was in Afghanistan, and he encountered Tony Stark, who was about to be killed by the Decepticons, so he saved him. Because Ratchet was not good at combat, just like his name, He specialized in healing and repair, and was only equipped with a few small missile launchers. Therefore, the man and the Ratchet had been continuously pursued by the Decepticons. Ratchet's speed was very fast, and the pursuing Decepticons could only barely keep up. Moreover, every time they got close, Tony Stark would use the only weapon on Ratchet to attack. With the weapons he modified, the Decepticons didn't dare to take the hits head-on. After Ratchet's body was riddled with countless bullet holes, they finally arrived at the nearest U.S. military base. The stationed U.S. military personnel were initially going to intercept the approaching Ratchet, as anyone would know there was a problem with a Ratchet suddenly appearing in the desert. However, after Tony Stark got out of the Ratchet, the soldiers let them pass and quickly reported to the base commander, as they had been searching for Tony Stark for several months. Enemies. Be on alert. Just as Tony Stark's voice fell, two armed helicopters entered the U.S. military base. Helicopter ahead, this is a U.S. military base. Land immediately, shut down your engines, and prepare for inspection. Hey, are you an idiot? I told you these are enemies. Order an attack now. Tony Stark was very dissatisfied with the U.S. military's response. The two armed helicopters seemed to obey the U.S. military's orders and slowly descended from the sky. Mr. Stark, no force would dare to act presumptuously in our base. They are no different. Tony Stark looked at the descending armed helicopters, feeling something was off. Those two Decepticons shouldn't surrender like that. Suddenly, Tony Stark realized something and shouted to the commander. Idiot. They are going to attack. Order defense and attack immediately. What did you say? The commander didn't understand why Tony Stark was panicking. They were already at a U.S. military base, would they still be attacked? A metallic crashing sound came from the armed helicopters that had landed, and then, under the gaze of many soldiers, they transformed into two giant robots. The robots raised their arms, glowing with a faint blue light. Tony Stark's eyes narrowed, and he instinctively shouted, Ratchet! Ratchet, parked nearby, no longer hid. He immediately transformed into his Autobot state, pouncing to shield Tony Stark. With a loud bang, Tony Stark's head was hit hard, and he immediately fainted. Seeing this, Ratchet, who was not skilled in combat, did not participate in the fight but instead began treating Tony Stark, whose head had been impacted. Two Decepticons started a rampage in the base, and the soldiers inside could only attack with individual weapons. Heavy weapons, not prepared in time, were destroyed by the Decepticons before they could even be activated. Inside the command center, an officer was ordering the nearest U.S. military base to come for support. As the technical personnel were operating, a strong electromagnetic pulse swept through, and all electronic equipment immediately went down. Damn it, it's an EMP attack. Outside, the soldiers were struggling to resist the two Decepticons. The Cybertronians' bodies were extremely hard, not ordinary metal, and bullets could not penetrate them at all, only serving to obstruct. Only weapons like rocket launchers could rely on the powerful impact generated by explosions to force the Decepticons to stop and cause some damage. At this moment, a man in a military officer's uniform came to the unconscious Tony Stark, adjusted the monocle on his right eye, and laughed. Hey, what a tenacious life, to have survived being hunted by the Decepticons for so long. Ratchet, who was providing treatment, turned his head in confusion, his huge metal head looking at the newcomer, not understanding what this human was doing, and how he knew about the Decepticons. A piece of armor shrapnel suddenly flew over and stuck at the feet of Officer Amon. Officer Amon looked up at the fierce battle not far away and raised his eyebrows. Two bothersome guys. After muttering, Officer Amon raised his hand and pointed in the direction of the Decepticons. The two Decepticons immediately became sluggish in their movements, as if they hadn't been lubricated for too long and their joints had rusted. Soon, the two Decepticons took out monocles the size of a human face from somewhere and put them on their metal eyes. Then the two Decepticons quickly transformed, reverting to their helicopter forms, and left the military base. The U.S. Military was also very confused. The enemies had brutalized them and then just left. Were they just there to cause destruction? But weren't they after Tony Stark? Officer Amon crouched down, raised his right hand, and slapped the unconscious Tony Stark. Slap. With one slap, Tony Stark's left cheek became red and swollen. After a cough, Tony Stark bent over and woke up. Still not fully conscious, Tony Stark mumbled to himself. "Why do I feel like someone slapped me?" Ratchet's mechanical eyes flickered beside him, not expecting that this was also a way to save someone. Tony Stark felt some pain on his left cheek and tried to raise his right hand to touch it. Hiss. "Damn it. Why is my hand broken?" Tony Stark cried out in pain. Ratchet also felt strange. He had clearly checked just now, and only the head was injured, other parts should not have been too seriously hurt. Officer Amon, watching all this, said, "Mr. Stark, I saved you. To wake you up, I transferred the injury to your head to your arm, prioritizing the less severe. You can understand, right? This was the magician's damage transfer." "What? How did you do that? Are you a mutant? Was it you who slapped me just now?" Officer Amon said, "I am a medic, it's my duty to save you, no need to thank me. Also, I was entrusted by Ms. Pepper Potts to bring you back." Tony Stark was about to retort, asking who wanted him to be treated like this, when he heard Pepper's name and exclaimed, "Pepper, did she find your military?" Officer Amon chuckled. "No, she didn't look for the military, but for our different ballroom." Tony Stark frowned, not understanding what the other person meant by different ballroom. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked Ratchet, "What about those two Decepticons? Were they captured by the military?" "No, your army had no power to fight back at all, but for some reason, they suddenly ran away." Ratchet said in a muffled voice. "Suddenly ran away," Tony Stark murmured. He looked at Officer Amon, seeing him standing there neatly dressed and relaxed, and he had a guess. "Was it you? Wow. As expected of the great genius Stark, you guessed it right away." Officer Amon admitted with an exaggerated tone. Tony Stark raised his eyebrows again. Although the content of what was said was not wrong, it always felt sarcastic coming from the other person's mouth. Officer Amon said, "All right, you're fine now, so I should leave too. Remember to have Ms. Potts pay the reward, we agreed on it." After speaking, Officer Amon handed Tony Stark a card, and then disappeared right under Tony Stark's nose. "How did he disappear?" "Optical stealth," Tony Stark asked Ratchet. Ratchet shook his metal head, indicating that he didn't know either. Tony Stark looked at the card in his hand and saw written on it, "Different Ballroom, Klein Moretti." Different Ballroom means this. At this moment, the surrounding soldiers gathered around, all pointing their guns at Ratchet. Although this robot looked a bit different from the two just now, they were all robots, and all very dangerous. "Put down your guns, he's Tony Stark's man." Colonel Rhodes, who had been searching for Tony in Afghanistan, ran over. Seeing this, he waved to the soldiers, "Everyone put down your guns." The soldiers obeyed, lowering their guns, but remained vigilant, ready to attack immediately if there was any movement. "Tony, it's so good to see you. Where have you been, and what's with this big robot?" Tony Stark looked at his friend Rhodes in front of him, feeling much more relaxed, but still said seriously, "Rhodes, my business isn't important. He's an Autobot, Earth is in trouble now, I need to contact the president." "Oh shit. New York, Tony Stark, bandaged, walked down from a military plane. Rhodes walked on his right. Pepper Potts, waiting at the airport, excitedly walked over and gave Tony a big hug. "Pepper, you look a bit haggard, are those tears in your eyes? Are you thinking of your boss?" Tony said with some heartache. Pepper's complexion was much worse than a few months ago, and her eyes were bloodshot. Pepper released Tony, wiped away non-existent tears from the corners of her eyes. "I'm happy because I don't have to look for a job. Pepper, let me introduce you to a friend. Ratchet, come down." The rear cabin door of the plane opened, and a green and black Ratchet vehicle drove out, stopping next to Tony and Pepper. Is this your new invention, a smart unmanned vehicle? Why is it shaped like a ratchet? Pepper looked at Ratchet in confusion. Ratchet spoke. Madam, I am Stark's friend, Ratchet. It can talk, is it Jarvis? Tony explained. Pepper, he's not controlled by Jarvis. Ratchet is a true silicon-based life form from Cybertron, he's the one who saved me in the desert. This is truly incredible. Pepper gasped softly. Pepper, do you know this person? Tony handed Pepper a business card, the same one Officer Amon had given him. Klein Moretti. Tony, how do you have his business card? Yesterday I went to him for help finding you, and he said he would bring you back within 2 days. I didn't expect him to actually do it. X Mansion, inside the dormitory. From today, Stark Industries' weapons division will be shut down. Amon lay on the sofa, watching the news with great interest. Ratchet's appearance in Afghanistan was his doing. Yesterday he detected several meteorites falling from outer space, realized they were Autobots, and intervened to alter Ratchet's landing spot to Afghanistan. Otherwise, Ratchet would have appeared in the US. Just then, Liana walked in with a grim expression, and seeing Amon leisurely watching TV, an inexplicable surge of anger rose within her. Damn it, you're still here watching TV, while I was tutored by Aurora all morning. Liana leapt up and pounced on Amon, hitting him with both hands. Amon caught Liana's fists, twisted his body, and pinned Liana to the sofa. Didn't you say you wanted to go out and play? Something big is going to happen in New York soon, and I can sneak you out. Liana's struggles weakened, and her eyes lit up. Really? Of course, it's true. There's going to be a robot war, which is a rare occurrence. Liana pushed Amon's hands away, flipped over, and jumped up. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Tony, why are you shutting down Stark Industries' weapons division? You'll ruin Stark Industries. Obadiah Stane angrily shouted at Tony, unable to understand why he would do such a thing. Tony Stark said indifferently. Obi, don't say another word. I have more important things to do right now, and no time to explain to you. Don't bother me. Obadiah's chest tightened with anger, and he said, gasping for breath. You're just like Howard, just as prideful and self-righteous. Do you think Stark Industries belongs only to you, Stark? The current strength of Stark Industries is the result of my lifelong struggle. I won't let you ruin it. I've already proposed to the board of directors to dismiss you from your CEO position, citing your prolonged disappearance and mental instability. Do whatever you want, Tony said indifferently, turning to leave. Seeing Tony's figure getting further and further away, Obadiah couldn't help but shout. Tony, you'll regret this. Obi, I am the master of Stark Industries. Tony's voice drifted from afar, light but hitting Obadiah's chest like a heavy hammer. Damn Stark. Inside Tony's large laboratory, Ratchet had transformed into his Autobot form, treating the wound on Tony's chest. Why didn't that you know who also transfer the wound on my chest? He must have done it on purpose. Ratchet was cleaning and disinfecting Tony's wound. The treatment Ethan gave Tony in the cave in Afghanistan was very rudimentary, only saving Tony's life. It was lucky that Tony Stark hadn't died from infection by now. Tony, should we replace this old arc reactor? I see you've already prepared a new one. Ratchet tapped the arc reactor on Tony's chest with a scalpel. Just then, the door to the laboratory opened, and Pepper walked in, saying, Tony, did you call me down for something? Pepper's voice grew softer and softer, because from her perspective, a giant metal robot was half kneeling in front of Tony, who was half lying on the operating table, and the robot was holding a scalpel, pointing it at Tony's chest. Although the scalpel was very small relative to the robot's metal body, Pepper still noticed it at a glance. Tony, are you okay? Pepper asked softly, afraid that too loud a voice would disturb the large robot. Seeing Pepper arrive, Tony's eyes lit up, and he said, Pepper, you've come at just the right time. I really need you here. Pepper approached, looking at the several-meter-tall large robot, and asked Tony. This is, Madam, I have already introduced myself. I am Ratchet. Ratchet's emotional, synthesized mechanical voice sounded. You're Ratchet. You were a car earlier. I didn't realize you could transform. Tony, lying on the operating table, explained. Ratchet is an Autobot from Cybertron, capable of transforming between human and car forms. Pepper came back to her senses and asked Tony, "Why did you call me here? And why is there a hole in your chest?" After getting closer, Pepper also noticed the large hole in Tony's chest. Tony said, "I called you here for this, Pepper. Help me take out the light bulb in my chest and put in a new one. I think you're the most suitable person for this." Pepper retorted, "Tony, this isn't a light bulb. It looks very much like a miniature version of the arc reactor in the tower. Tell me, what exactly happened to you?" Tony said indifferently, "It's a small problem, just some shrapnel accidentally got in, and it needs an electromagnet to hold it. That light bulb is the power source for the electromagnet." Pepper wasn't so easily fooled. "You're really not careful. This doesn't look like what you said. You're still hiding things from me. Pepper, you're the person I trust most, so only you can change this arc reactor for me." After saying that, Tony looked at Pepper with eyes full of emotion. Under Tony's gaze, Pepper finally gave in and said, "Don't even think about asking me for help with this kind of thing again." Ratchet silently turned his back, not wanting to watch the two of them anymore. After replacing the new arc reactor, Pepper looked at the old reactor in her hand and asked Tony, "What should I do with this old one?" Tony said indifferently, "Just destroy it, burn it with fire or something. It would be a shame to destroy it. It has great commemorative significance." "I should frame it in a box," Pepper suggested. "Whatever you want," Tony said indifferently. Soon Pepper left. Tony could be a hands-off boss, but she couldn't. Stark Industries was in chaos, and she had many things to deal with. "Tony, I must warn you, that reactor in your chest is very likely to put you in danger. Palladium elements will seep into your body through your blood, causing heavy metal poisoning. The best way is to remove the shrapnel, but that requires a major operation," Ratchet said to Tony in a serious tone. Tony waved his hand and said, "We'll talk about that later. Didn't you say there were a few other Autobots who came with you? Have you notified them? My Stark Industries is the most advanced place on Earth, and it will be very helpful for you to stop the Decepticons." "I've already notified them. They all landed in the US and will be here soon. Actually, we came together. I don't know why I landed in Afghanistan," Ratchet said with some confusion, as he should have landed in the US. Ignoring Ratchet's confusion, Tony made a suggestion, having long coveted Cybertronian technology. "Ratchet, you must know a lot about Cybertronian technology, right? To fight the Decepticons, let's design a new generation of Iron Man suits together." Ratchet's metal eyes flickered, and he asked curiously, "You mean the Iron Man suit you were wearing when we first met?" "It is indeed a very interesting thing. That was just a defective product. What we're going to make is a groundbreaking armor." At the Hoover Dam on the Colorado River, a Cosmos Gate appeared, and Amon, with Liana's face full of curiosity, stepped out of the portal. Liana looked at the sky and asked in confusion, "It seems like this isn't New York anymore, the sun's position has changed." "Oh, good observation skills, you're even thinking now. We've left New York, this is the Hoover Dam." Amon glanced at Liana and praised her. The Hoover Dam is located in Nevada, and there's a 3-hour time difference between Nevada and New York. It was already afternoon in New York, but still noon at the Hoover Dam. Liana said proudly, "Of course. I'm very smart. But what are we doing here? What's fun about this place?" Amon explained, "Of course there's something fun here. Haven't you always coveted Scott's motorcycle? There's something even more fun here, something that can give life to mechanical creations. Afterward, you'll have a motorcycle that can transform into a human form." Liana's eyes lit up with excitement upon hearing this. "Really? Where is it? Besides this big dam under my feet, I don't see any special items." Amon chuckled. "There's more than just a dam here, or rather, this dam was built for that item." "Are you saying that thing is inside the dam?" Liana asked, stomping her foot on the dam. Amon looked her up and down and then said, That's right, but your current clothes won't do. Liana looked at herself. She was wearing a black form-fitting mesh top, black shorts, and stockings. What's wrong with this? Special departments don't dress like this. Aemon said with a smile, then snapped his fingers. With a puff of smoke, Liana's body was enveloped. After the smoke dispersed, her clothes had changed into a formal suit, like a capable career woman. That's much better. As he spoke, Amon's clothes also changed, transforming into a white lab coat, dressed like a scientist. He placed his hand on Liana's shoulder, and the two instantly vanished from the top of the dam, appearing inside. The interior of the dam was hollow, brightly lit, and filled with busy people. It's so big in here, and so many people. Liana exclaimed. Let's go, I'll show you something interesting. Aemon waved to Liana and walked forward. Why are you walking so fast? There are so many things here that are more interesting than the training rooms at the academy. Liana quickly caught up. The two passed many staff members, who all greeted Aemon and Liana warmly, as if they knew them. Liana leaned close to Aemon, whispering in his ear. How did they all seem to know us? Aemon said matter-of-factly, I'm a researcher here, and you're a junior supervisor here, so of course they know us. Ah, aren't we infiltrating? Did you prepare for this long ago, or did you use your abilities to modify their consciousness? Liana pressed. Guess. Liana pouted and reached out to pinch Amon's waist, but she grabbed nothing. Her attention was drawn to something else. What a huge robot. What met Liana's eyes was a humanoid robot tens of meters tall, made of metal, full of the beauty of violence and machinery. Liana asked curiously, is this the robot you mentioned? It's so big. Does it have a cockpit inside? Can I go in and control it? You've probably watched too much Gundam. This isn't Gundam. He's an intelligent being, technically called a silicon-based lifeform, an alien. Aemon explained to Liana. So is he your target? I feel like having a big robot would be pretty cool. Liana offered her idea. Aemon said, you should take care of Lockheed first. In your hands, he can only be a plush toy. Besides, this robot isn't easy to take care of, he wants to destroy humanity. Then forget it, Lockheed wouldn't destroy humanity. Liana squeezed the plush dragon hanging from her waist, that was Lockheed. Lockheed had two forms. Normally, he transformed into a plush toy for Liana to play with, but he could also transform into a giant dragon for battle. Aemon brought him out from the toy dimension that trapped Mikhail and the others during his second visit, and the crown doll was very angry at the time. At the feet of the giant robot, many scientists in white lab coats were researching and discussing. Among them, a black man in a black trench coat stood out, looking out of place. Nick Fury had been very anxious lately. He received news from the military that an alien mechanical creature had attacked a U.S. military base in Afghanistan. This involved aliens, so he, as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., was notified. This reminded him of the Kree fleet's invasion of Earth 13 years ago, but this time there was no Captain Marvel, and his envisioned Avengers had not materialized. However, on the mutant side, the X-Men were doing very well. Sigh, Nick Fury sighed. Upon hearing, mechanical creature, his first thought was this giant robot found decades ago. It had been studied for decades, and many of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s high technologies were reverse-engineered from it. Nick Fury now suspected that the aliens who attacked the U.S. military base were looking for this big guy in front of him, so he came here today, hoping to find some clues. However, it seemed he was going to be disappointed. Ignoring the frantic Nick Fury, Aemon led the way while explaining to Liana. We're not looking for him, but a tesseract, also known as the Allspark, which is the soul of these mechanical beings and can give life to machines. Soon, the two arrived at a door. Aemon waved his hand, the two guards tapped a few times on the door, and it opened. Aemon led the way in, and Liana quickly followed. Inside was an enormous cube, 4 or 5 stories tall, silver gray in color with intricate patterns. It was tilted in the center and connected to many tubes. Liana exclaimed, "Wow, this is even bigger than that robot. Is this what you're looking for? This tesseract is really big. Is it for Godzilla to play with?" Aemon walked to the bottom of the tesseract. There seemed to be invisible steps in the air, and Aemon stepped on the air, one step at a time, to reach the middle of the giant tesseract. There were also many researchers here, but they all acted as if they didn't see him, continuing with their work. Lyanna also wanted to learn from Aemon and coolly walk into midair, but after several attempts, she failed. So she shouted up at Aemon from below. "Hey, that's a really cool trick, teach it to me when we get back. Then you'll have to practice seriously." As he spoke, Aemon placed his hand on the tesseract. The tesseract began to change, small cubes started to appear and contract, and the whole thing began to rotate like a real tesseract. Soon, the giant tesseract compressed to the size of a human head, held in Amon's hand. Holding the tesseract in his left hand, Aemon stretched out his right hand and pulled a huge tesseract from the void. It was identical to the previous tesseract. The tesseract he pulled out was placed back in its original position by Aemon. Lyanna exclaimed, "Is that what you mentioned earlier, the historical projection, that you pulled out of the void? You can even take out something that big." Aemon landed on the ground, tossed the tesseract in his hand to Lyanna, and instructed. "This is called the Allspark. Do not let it come into contact with any electronic or mechanical products, as that will turn them into mechanical beings filled with aggression and violence." Lyanna frowned and asked, "Then how do I use this thing? Didn't you say you were going to give me a motorcycle that could transform? How can I use it if it becomes violent?" Aemon smiled and said, "That's simple. The reason why robots activated by the Allspark become violent is because most of the electronic products on Earth currently are manufactured using technology deciphered from that large robot outside. So, after activation, they will have a violent and aggressive personality. We just need to create some error during activation to avoid this." "What are you talking about? I don't understand," Lyanna said, very confused. "It's normal not to understand. You still need to learn more," Aemon said calmly. Lyanna raised an eyebrow. Every time she spoke with Aemon, she always felt like Aemon was subtly mocking her. She didn't dwell on the issue for too long because she was already used to it. She followed Aemon and left the shield base under the Hoover Dam. As they left, Aemon even greeted Fury, which left Fury feeling bewildered. Leaving the Hoover Dam, Aemon took Lyanna and teleported back to New York. The Stargate closed, and the two walked out. Lyanna observed her surroundings and asked curiously, "This looks like New York. Why are we back? Is the robot war about to begin?" Aemon hooked his arm around Lyanna's neck and said to her with a smile, "Of course, I'm giving you a gift. Weren't you just complaining about wanting a living robot?" Being stared at by Aemon made Lyanna a little embarrassed. She pushed Amon's hand away and stammered. Who is complaining about wanting a gift? It was you who said you'd give me one. I was just reminding you." All right, it's my fault for not giving you the gift in time. It's my problem. So, little princess, may I ask you to come see the gift I've prepared for you?" Aemon said in a very gentlemanly tone. Lyanna turned her body away before speaking. "All right, I forgive you. Hurry and take me to see the motorcycle you prepared for me." As Lyanna said this, she tried hard to control her tone, to prevent Aemon from hearing anything amiss and then making fun of her. She had experienced this too many times. Every time, Aemon would mock her for a long time. "Don't hold back anymore, the gift is right ahead." Amon's voice drifted over. Lyanna looked back and saw that Aemon was already walking away. Lyanna stomped her foot in place and chased after him. "Wait for me, Aemon." The two quickly arrived at the entrance of the different ballroom. Lyanna looked at the name, different ballroom, and asked curiously. "A motorcycle would be in a place like this. Let's go in." Aemon led Lyanna inside. The two security guards outside saw Aemon and Lyanna arrive, opened the door, and welcomed them. "Boss. Miss. Why did they call you boss? When did you open such a big store? How come I don't know?" Lyanna leaned closer to Aemon, looking at him with suspicious eyes. "There's a lot you don't know. I've done a lot of things." Inside the ballroom, Aemon opened a room and led Lyanna in. It was a room with a strong mechanical style, filled with many high-tech devices. Inside the room was an item contained in a huge gift box. Liana could guess that it was the motorcycle Amon was giving her. "I'm opening it," Liana said, then proceeded to unwrap the large gift box. Perhaps feeling that unwrapping it by hand was too slow, Liana directly condensed part of a lightsaber in her hand and cut open the gift box along the edges. After the gift box was opened, what greeted Liana's eyes was a motorcycle that was entirely silver gray. Under the light, she could see patterns like meteorite craters. It featured a double-spine frame, with the main beam branching from the front to the rear, forming sharp, angular lines like fighter jet air intakes. The curved surface from the fuel tank to the tail perfectly conformed to aerodynamics. "So cool," Liana exclaimed, flipping herself onto the motorcycle. The body perfectly fit Liana's physique. "This motorcycle was personally designed by me. It has a breathing function, and its body color will change with your state. When your speed reaches a certain limit, the entire vehicle will emit a dazzling purple light, like a meteor. The entire vehicle uses a combination of adamantium and vibranium, making it almost indestructible." Amon introduced the motorcycle's features to Liana, making her even more excited. "Amon, I really like this gift. All those times you teased me before are forgiven." Amon smiled without speaking. After a while, he took out the faintly glowing Allspark and tossed it into Liana's hand. Earlier, Liana had found the Allspark too large and inconvenient to hold, so she had given it back to Amon. "Place it close to the motorcycle, and the motorcycle will have life," Amon explained. Liana looked at the cube in her hand again and asked, "Just put it directly on the motorcycle. Don't I need to do anything else? Didn't you say activated life would become violent?" Amon replied with a smile, "You don't need to do anything else. With me here, there won't be any problems." Hearing this, Liana no longer hesitated and curiously placed the Allspark on the motorcycle's body. At this moment, Amon snapped his fingers. Transformation begins. Energy ripples appeared, and the motorcycle's body began to shake and hum. Soon, the metal of the body vibrated like human muscles. The fuel tank split into chest armor, the front forks twisted into arms, the engine expanded into a core power reactor, the wheels disassembled and reassembled into foot treads, the rear hub rotated and unfolded into shoulder missile pods, and the headlights, pupils transformed into glowing blue optical lenses. Blue energy flowed through its entire body, and the motorcycle completely transformed into a humanoid robot. The activated motorcycle looked around and quickly saw Liana and Amon in front of it. She immediately knelt on one knee and said in a female mechanical synthetic voice, "Two masters, thank you for granting me life. My name is Artemis." Using the authority of error, Amon caused some error during Artemis's activation, making Artemis belong neither to the Autobots nor the Decepticons, nor even to any faction of Cybertron. She now belonged only to Amon and Liana. The goddess of the hunt. "I like that name," Liana said joyfully, not expecting the robot to be so cool. Artemis spoke. Artemis is also very happy to please her master. At this moment, Amon said, "Artemis, from now on, you will be Liana's maid and guard." "Yes, great creator," Artemis replied seriously. Liana retorted, "Creator, that really suits your arrogant personality. Let's go, Artemis, let's take a ride outside, I want to see how powerful you are." "Yes, miss." Artemis followed Liana out. When they reached the door, Liana looked back at Amon and teased, "Arrogant one, do you want this miss to take you along?" "Sure." Amon gave Liana a big smile. Looking at Amon's expression, Liana's face suddenly stiffened for a moment, then returned to normal. She suddenly realized that with Amon's personality, when faced with someone else's teasing, it would never be Amon who ended up embarrassed. She would inevitably make a fool of herself in front of Amon later. "Then let's go, today I'll let you witness my strength." Not wanting to lose face, Liana directly pulled Amon outside. Once outside, Artemis naturally transformed back into her motorcycle form. Liana was the first to get on and then patted the seat behind her, saying, "Get on, arrogant one." Inside a police car on a New York street, two police officers were chatting when a purple light suddenly flashed past. Both of them froze. The speed gun also emitted a beeping sound, but instead of displaying a speed, it started to error. What's wrong with this thing? Is it broken? One officer patted the speed gun in front of the car, very puzzled. The speed gun they used could measure up to 322 kilometers per hour. The other officer quickly figured out the situation and cursed. Shit, is someone flying a plane on the ground? I couldn't even see a shadow. The first officer asked cautiously, "Boss, what should we do?" The older officer glanced at him and said, "What else can we do? Do you want to chase them? The equipment is broken, we didn't see anything." "Right, we didn't see anything. Inside Tony Stark's private laboratory in New York, Tony and Ratchet were making the final adjustments to the armor. Ratchet advised Tony, "Tony, although our design is perfect, I think it still needs to be tested first." "No need, Ratchet, our Stark family tradition is to learn to run before we learn to walk." Tony refused, his armor was fully equipped. He said to his artificial intelligence butler, "Jarvis, load the system, let's start now." The mechanical synthesized voice replied, "Yes, sir." Tony put on the armor's helmet, and the armor at the interface began to interlock, quickly forming a complete whole. The thrusters on the armor's feet and hands activated, spraying out a large amount of high-energy particles. Bang! A large hole was smashed in the ceiling of the garage. Ratchet cleaned up the falling debris, poked his head out of the large hole, and looked at Tony, who had already flown far away. "Awesome, this is much more exciting than racing," Tony shouted excitedly. Jarvis's mechanical voice sounded in Tony's ear, "Sir, pay attention to your heartbeat, your heart rate has already reached 120. "Don't worry about that, Jarvis, what's the speed now?" "Sir, the current speed has reached 753 kilometers per hour, and the current power is 30%. Tony was very satisfied with the current data. Suddenly, he glimpsed a purple light flashing on the road below. "Jarvis, what just passed by?" "Sir, it was a motorcycle." On the screen inside his cheek, a photo was projected. It was a silver motorcycle with 2 people on it, and the speed display had already reached 800 kilometers per hour. Did they put a plane engine on that motorcycle? How is it so fast? Tony was shocked by their speed, it was comparable to some civilian planes. Tony grew curious about them. "Jarvis, catch up to them." "Yes, sir." The iron armor plunged down sharply, chasing after the two, passing the 2 police officers again along the way. Beep beep beep. "Boss, did something else just pass by?" It looked silver. Liana felt incredibly exhilarating now. This feeling of objects on both sides blurring into streaks of light was something she had never experienced before. At this moment, Artemis's voice sounded, "Miss, an unidentified flying object is chasing us." "Ah. Something can still catch up." Liana looked at the dashboard, the speed was already 800 kilometers per hour, how could something still be catching up? She looked back and saw a silver robot rapidly approaching. "What is that thing?" Amon, in the back seat, had also noticed Tony catching up long ago and casually chuckled. "Just a playboy, Liana, don't let him overtake you. Can a playboy play at such a high level?" Liana wondered, asking Artemis. "Artemis, can you go faster? Don't let that guy behind us catch up." "Yes, miss, I can also activate acceleration mode." "Then what are you waiting for, activate it," Liana said impatiently. The vehicle began to transform, the exhaust pipes became 2 jet devices, and then dazzling purple energy flames erupted from them. Artemis's speed suddenly increased by a notch, the air made a tearing sound, and their speed exceeded the speed of sound. A faint purple energy shield appeared around the vehicle, blocking the turbulent airflow. "It has this function too, Amon, you put thought into this. If they were ordinary people, this energy shield would have to be activated at that speed, otherwise they would be heavily pressed against the vehicle, unable to move. But Amon and Liana's physical conditions were extraordinary, so it hadn't been activated until now." Tony's eyes widened. What did he see? A motorcycle reached the speed of sound, creating a Mach cone. "Jarvis, did you see that? Was that a Mach cone just now? Yes, sir. After calculation, the speed of the vehicle in front has reached Mach 1.03. How did they do that, and how are their bodies enduring it? Jarvis, set the power to 50%, we must catch up to them. Sir, the armor is currently in the testing phase. Excessive power may lead to unexpected incidents, Jarvis advised. Tony said indifferently, don't worry, just do as I say. No one can surpass me, Tony Stark. The iron armor also accelerated sharply, quickly catching up to Artemis. As the distance closed, Tony also clearly saw the two people riding the motorcycle, a young man and a young woman. The woman was driving, and they weren't even wearing helmets. Tony originally wanted to shout to the two, asking them how they did it, breaking the sound barrier without even wearing protective suits, but considering the current environment, unless they used communication equipment, the other party wouldn't be able to hear him at all. Jarvis, analyze how they did it. Soon, Jarvis's scan was complete, and he reported to Tony. Sir, the surface of their vehicle has an energy shield that isolates the airflow and pressure from the outside of the vehicle. The vehicle is also equipped with an unknown jet propulsion system, allowing it to reach the speed of sound. Energy shield technology. They actually have this technology. Tony suddenly had the idea of getting to know them. Energy shield technology was a groundbreaking innovation, and it seemed to be quite mature. Tony controlled the mark, waved to the two, and then made a gesture to stop. However, Liana had no intention of stopping. She said to Artemis, Artemis, keep accelerating. Leave that guy behind. Tony was still gesturing, wanting to chat with the two. He saw the man behind him turn his head towards him, revealing a smile that felt very familiar to him. Then, the other party raised his hand and threw something at him, seemingly a card. The card seemed detached from the entire world, unaffected by the turbulent airflow, flying onto Tony's mask and blocking his vision. Tony removed the paper and looked at the two again, only to find they were gone. Jarvis, where are they? Sir, they suddenly accelerated to Mach 1.32 and then headed east towards Queens. Jarvis, catch up. Sorry, sir. Mark II is an experimental model. The jet system we have installed did not account for the current situation. Calculations show it will be difficult to catch them. Tony looked at the card in his hand, his expression becoming strange, because he had another such business card, and he also remembered why the smile felt familiar. It's different ballroom again. Looks like I need to find an opportunity to check it out. He murmured a few words and instructed Jarvis. Never mind that mysterious guy, Jarvis, fly up and let's see our limits. Yes, sir. Tony had always wanted to visit the mysterious organization that saved him once, but he had been very busy lately. He had just returned from Afghanistan, got involved with aliens, and was busy designing the mark, so he hadn't found the time. The iron mark abruptly changed direction and flew towards the sky. Without restrictions, the iron mark quickly surpassed the cruising altitude of civilian airliners and continued to ascend, reaching around 70,000 feet. What is the record for the State Route 71 Blackbird? The State Route 71 Blackbird's altitude record is 85,000 feet, sir. Jarvis quickly provided the data. Records are meant to be broken. Let's go. After flying for a while longer, Tony noticed an anomaly. He felt it was becoming difficult to move the mark's joints. Sir, high-altitude icing will cause a huge safety hazard. Continue. The excited Tony didn't listen to Jarvis. Suddenly, the jet device in his foot made a sound, and after a burst of sparks, it stopped working. Immediately after, all the equipment inside the mark also stopped working, and Jarvis could not be reached. The low temperature at high altitude caused problems with the mark's power system. Oh, it's over. After relying on speed to ascend for a while, Tony began to free fall towards the ground. Jarvis, open the wings, break through the ice, Jarvis, Jarvis. After calling out a few times to no avail, Tony realized Jarvis was also offline. Shit. He wanted to manually open a switch on his side waist to open the mark's side wings and resolve this crisis. But due to the ice layer on the mark's surface, his hand could not move, so he could not open the switch. It must be that my physical strength declined during this period of being kidnapped. Finally, at a not so high distance from the ground, he opened the side wings, the ice layer shattered, and the mark's system was rapidly restarting. There's not enough time at this altitude. After a simple estimation of the altitude, Tony calculated the result: he would definitely hit the ground. Jarvis, head for the sea. Jarvis came back online. Landing on the sea was the only method Tony could think of now. His current position was not far from the sea, and it was possible to reach the sky above the sea before landing. Yes, sir. Warning. Warning. Unknown object crashing. What? Tony was very puzzled. In the sky above New York, what else could be flying besides a genius like him? Suddenly, he felt the mark being hit by something, followed by a violent tumbling, and finally, with a series of intense metal crashing sounds, it hit the ground. Tony opened his mask and couldn't help but vomit. Those last few moments of descent were truly exhilarating. Human, are you all right? I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. Tony recovered, raised his head, and looked at the source of the sound. What met his eyes were red and blue mechanical legs, 3 or 4 meters tall. Looking further up, Tony saw a mechanical head, half his size, facing him, its mechanical eyes contracting and emitting a blue light. Big guy, thank you so much. I almost had to take a cold shower. Tony completely removed his helmet and lay on the ground, expressing his gratitude. Optimus Prime tilted his metal head. This human was different from all the humans he had encountered since coming to Earth. He was very special. Human, you are not surprised. Do you seem to know about me? Big guy, my name is Tony Stark. You can call me Mr. Stark. Ratchet mentioned you to me, Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. At this moment, lights shone from a distance. It was an ambulance and a black pickup truck. The two vehicles arrived in front of Tony and Optimus Prime, and with creaking mechanical transformations, they turned into their Autobot forms. It was Ratchet and Ironhide. Ratchet said to Tony, who was lying on the ground, "Tony, I knew something would happen to you. Luckily, Optimus Prime arrived and caught you." Ratchet, "Thanks, but I also had a way to land safely, I just hadn't used it yet." The always prideful Tony certainly wouldn't admit that without Optimus Prime, he might have fallen into the sea. He turned to Ironhide and asked, "Who is this Cannonball?" Cannonball. Ratchet was stunned for a moment before realizing Tony was referring to Ironhide, and introduced him to Tony. "Tony, he is Ironhide, our weapons expert, a seasoned warrior." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Cannonball. Your weapons look very good." Ironhide was equipped with a large number of cannons, which was why Tony called him Cannonball. "Nice to meet you, Iron Man." Ironhide responded in a deep voice. He was an Autobot of few words. Inside Tony's laboratory, the ceiling that Tony had previously crashed through had been repaired by Ratchet, but Tony had made another hole next to it. Of course, this time he didn't hit the wall. Optimus Prime was too big and couldn't get in without an opening. Tony sat in his boss chair and asked the 3 Autobots. "So, the Decepticons came to Earth to find something called the Allspark. What's it for?" "Your spiritual totem." Optimus Prime, curled up, nodded and said, "It can be understood that way, but with some differences. The Allspark is a physical entity, the source and destination of our souls. It can provide us with energy and also create our kin." Tony pondered, then asked a question. "What do you mean by, create your kin?" "Electronic and mechanical devices, upon touching the Allspark's power, will be activated into Cybertronians. The Decepticons are very likely trying to use the Allspark to create an army to provoke war." Optimus Prime answered Tony's question and offered a not-so-good speculation. "That's just terrible." Tony responded to Optimus Prime's point, feeling that Earth was in peril at the thought of countless Decepticons like those he encountered in Afghanistan. "How did something belonging to you Cybertronians end up on Earth?" Tony said with annoyance. "We don't know why, but our detectors show that the Allspark is on Earth." Optimus Prime replied in a deep voice. Tony's eyes lit up at the words and he asked, you have a way to pinpoint the Allspark's location. That's right, we have a device that can detect the Allspark's energy fluctuations, but the precision is relative to the universe, it can only pinpoint Earth, and cannot go any further than that. Optimus Prime said honestly. Tony gestured with his hands, saying with some pride, I am an expert in the field of mechatronics, and the energy field is also a direction of my research. You can give me the device to study, perhaps I can improve the precision of the positioning. Optimus Prime pondered for a few seconds, then turned to Ratchet and said, Give him the device. This might be our chance to find the Allspark first. Ratchet's body shifted, his armor opened, and he took out a black box from within. We observed a large amount of residual Allspark energy on Earth, which is why we are certain the Allspark is on Earth. Tony took the black box, curiously examining the Cybertronian instrument. This was technology he had never seen before, just like the several Autobots in front of him. However, he was confident that with his genius mind, he would soon be able to improve this robot. Tony asked Ratchet, Ratchet, can you tell me about this device? It would be even better if you could explain its principles. No problem. It's called a source core instrument. It can synchronize with the energy generated by the Allspark, establishing quantum entanglement, and under the influence of the Allspark's energy, surrounding objects will experience entropy reduction. Ratchet began to explain the device to Tony, and then the two walked aside, engrossed in discussion as if no one else was there, leaving Optimus Prime and Ironhide standing by themselves. Is this what technicians are like? Optimus Prime asked his subordinate, Ironhide, who shook his head, indicating he didn't know either. Optimus Prime did not disturb Tony and Ratchet, who were deep in their research. Instead, he left the laboratory through the large hole, sat on a small utility shed, and gazed at the moon above. After an unknown amount of time, he suddenly received an urgent message from Bumblebee. Ironhide, something's happened to Bumblebee. Optimus Prime, what happened? Ironhide asked, somewhat bewildered. Optimus Prime said gravely, the target Bumblebee was investigating has been attacked by Decepticons. Now Bumblebee is fleeing with the target, and the situation is not optimistic. Many Autobots had actually come to Earth. Bumblebee said he had found a clue about the Allspark and went to investigate it alone. It seems the clue he mentioned must be real. Ironhide understood what had happened with a little thought. Optimus Prime said, we will go support Bumblebee now. What about here? Ironhide looked at the laboratory. Ratchet is not skilled in combat, so he will stay here and research with Stark, Optimus Prime decided. Immediately, the two Autobots transformed back into their truck and pickup forms and rushed towards Bumblebee's location. In Queens, a fierce chase was underway. A dilapidated yellow Chevrolet was speeding down the highway, constantly overtaking vehicle after vehicle. Behind it, two police car-like Decepticons were clinging tightly to the yellow car. Not only that, the two Decepticons were continuously harassing the yellow car with their mounted machine guns and shells, and the distance between them was getting closer and closer. Sam, inside the car, was extremely anxious, constantly looking back to gauge the distance from the Decepticons. He urgently prompted the steering wheel, saying, Bumblebee, faster. They're catching up. Watch out ahead. A helicopter appeared in the sky above the road ahead. Amidst the sound of transformation, its machine gun barrel aimed at Bumblebee. Da 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 da. Countless bullets poured down. Amidst Sam's startled cries, the rear wheels of the yellow dilapidated Chevrolet lifted, and with the sound of mechanical transformation, it turned into a robot over 5 meters tall. Bumblebee grabbed Sam with one hand and picked up an unmanned car parked by the roadside with the other, blocking all the attacks. You, run, I, hold, them. Bumblebee spoke to Sam haltingly. His language module had been damaged in a previous battle, so he could only communicate with Sam by constantly changing radio channels. Sam did not hesitate much. He clutched the backpack in his hand and ran towards the building by the road. He knew he couldn't help Bumblebee, and staying there would only hold him back. Sam knew that the enemies were after the glasses in his hand, which belonged to his great-grandfather. Bumblebee said there was important information hidden in them, and the Decepticons absolutely could not get them. It proved that Sam's method of running into the building was very effective, as the relatively narrow space greatly restricted the Decepticons' pursuit. Bumblebee held back one police car Decepticon and one helicopter Decepticon, while the other police car Decepticon chased after Sam. Bumblebee, as Cybertron's dueling king, struggled greatly against the encirclement of two Decepticons, but fortunately, his combat experience was rich, and his raw strength was high enough to temporarily hold them at bay. Sam weaved through the buildings with the Decepticon in pursuit. However, due to the narrow space, the pursuing Decepticon could only destroy the buildings on both sides as it chased Sam. Sam looked back and found that the distance between him and the enemy was growing, so he breathed a sigh of relief, his body no longer so tense. It seems running this way was the right decision. Sam silently applauded his cleverness. Suddenly, he felt the ground begin to shake violently, and the manhole cover in front of him also started to vibrate. No way. Sam had a bad feeling. Suddenly, the manhole cover was flung open, and a giant robot smashed the ground around the manhole, appearing before Sam. "Human, hand over the Allspark information." Saying this, the Decepticon extended its rapidly rotating mechanical arm towards Sam, implying that if he didn't hand it over, Sam's head would be crushed. Sam moved the bag in his hand behind him and forced a stiff smile. "Mr. Robot, calm down. Calm down. I don't know anything about Allspark information. I'm just a normal person." "Is that so?" The Decepticon in front of him obviously didn't believe him. The rapidly rotating mechanical arm moved down, coming to Sam's chest, and then moved closer. Sam didn't dare to move. He was afraid that if he moved, the robot in front of him would pierce him through. With a tearing sound, Sam's shirt was ripped, and the flesh on his chest was also cut, gushing blood. "Hiss!" Sam gasped, but still gritted his teeth, looking as if he would rather die than surrender. "Bonecrusher, what are you doing?" A voice came from behind, and then Sam felt the bag in his hand snatched away. "This kid is protecting the bag in his hand so much, the item must be inside. You need to use your head, Bonecrusher." Retracting his mechanical arm, Bonecrusher said to Barricade. "Barricade, I was just playing with this kid." With that, Bonecrusher jumped back into the hole, and Barricade also didn't stay there any longer, finding a direction and leaving. Perhaps not caring about Sam, both Decepticons left without a finishing blow. After they left, Sam slumped to the ground, panting heavily. The injury on his chest was only superficial and not serious. On a nearby street, the two Decepticons fighting Bumblebee also received the message, stopped their battle, and departed into the distance. Bumblebee didn't pursue. As an Autobot, facing 2 or even 3 Decepticons, pursuing would be too risky. Sam. Bumblebee suddenly remembered something. The Decepticons' sudden retreat must mean something was wrong with Sam. He quickly searched for Sam along the trail of destruction. By the time Optimus Prime and Ironhide arrived at the location Bumblebee described, only a tattered Bumblebee and Sam, with his chest bandaged, remained. The truck and pickup transformed, becoming Optimus Prime and Ironhide. Optimus Prime asked seriously, "Bumblebee, where are the Decepticons?" Bumblebee continued to speak through his radio. "Clue, stolen, enemy, left." Optimus Prime didn't blame Bumblebee for losing the clue, and comforted him. "Your language module is damaged. Find a chance to get it treated by Ratchet. It's okay if the clue is gone, we have other methods." At this moment, Sam cautiously walked up to Optimus Prime, perhaps afraid Optimus Prime wouldn't hear him, and asked loudly, "Are you Bumblebee's partner? Can you tell me what exactly happened? I've been chased all night." Optimus Prime and Ironhide exchanged glances, then talked with Bumblebee for a few moments, before turning to Sam and saying, "Young man, you are very brave. We are sorry that you have been caught up in this disaster because of us. Since you are already involved, it's impossible to completely stay out of it. You can come with us to a place where your safety can be guaranteed." Sam looked back at Bumblebee, and seeing Bumblebee nod, he no longer hesitated, nodding in agreement. Okay. He still trusted Bumblebee very much. The Autobots no longer hesitated either, transforming back into their vehicle forms. Sam got into Bumblebee, and they headed towards Tony's laboratory. Inside Tony's private laboratory, Tony, having extricated himself from his research, was once again listening to Optimus Prime's account. After listening to Optimus Prime's narration, Tony said, "It's okay that the clue is lost. I've already figured out the principle of the positioning device, and a revised plan is already in place. It should be improved by tomorrow." "That fast?" Optimus Prime exclaimed in surprise. "Of course, I'm a genius inventor," Tony said proudly. "Tony's talent astonishes me." Ratchet acknowledged Tony's statement. "However, you went out to save someone and didn't call me. My armor is precisely for situations like this." After Tony finished speaking, he thought of something and looked at Sam, who was sitting somewhat uneasily to the side, and chuckled. "Sam, right. What, sitting in a room with a playboy makes you nervous?" Sam said with some excitement. "Mr. Stark, I'm excited. You are my idol. My father even bought Stark Industries stock. I never imagined you had already established contact with aliens. Haha. Kid, you have good taste. Believe me, don't look at how badly Stark Industries stock has fallen now, but as long as I take action, it will quickly rise back up." Tony laughed heartily. The next day at noon, inside Tony's laboratory, Sam, Optimus Prime, and Ratchet watched Tony tapping on the control panel. Bumblebee and Ironhide were standing guard outside, defending against a Decepticon attack. Under Tony's operation, the black box placed on the workbench began to operate, and the Earth model on the projection started to rotate rapidly. "I imported Earth's energy field data into the system, which greatly reduced interference and increased accuracy. I also modified your algorithm for distinguishing energy, making the positioning more precise, and also, Mr. Stark, may I ask about the positioning accuracy of your improved instrument?" Optimus Prime interrupted Tony's endless chatter. He was not good at technical things and wasn't interested in them. Hearing this, Tony pinched his chin and said, "After my improvements, the positioning error will not exceed 30 kilometers, and the accuracy will be even higher when closer. 30 kilometers, the error is not large. We can search it within half an hour." Optimus Prime's voice clearly became excited. They might find the Allspark before the Decepticons. At this moment, Ironhide walked in, carrying a tied-up man. The man was wearing a suit, and his hairline was somewhat receding. "Alien visitors, release me. You are provoking conflict with Earth," Ironhide meticulously said to Optimus Prime and Tony. "Optimus Prime, Stark, this human was lurking suspiciously outside, trying to sneak in. Bumblebee and I caught him." Coulson, who was tied up, quickly explained upon hearing this. "Big guy, I think you misunderstood. I came to visit Tony Stark, I just got lost." Tony looked over at the tied-up middle-aged man, feeling a sense of familiarity, so he asked Jarvis. "Jarvis, has this person been here before?" "Sir, Agent Phil Coulson visited 4 days ago, when you had just held a press conference. However, you did not receive him at the time. Ms. Potts received him on your behalf." "Is that so?" Tony shrugged noncommittally. Optimus Prime said to Ironhide. "Put him down." Ironhide said nothing, put Coulson down, and cut the ropes with the blade on his arm. Coulson, released, stretched his arms, which were sore from being tied, and managed to control himself from looking at the Autobots on either side, smiling at Tony. "Ha, Mr. Stark, I mainly came to ask you about the alien robots, but I didn't expect your connection to be so deep already." At this moment, the instrument on the workbench began to flash, indicating that the retrieval was complete. Seeing this, Tony didn't waste time with Coulson, quickly went to the workbench and operated it. The Earth on the projection stopped at a certain location. Tony reached out and enlarged the map, then asked Jarvis. "Jarvis, where is this?" "Sir, this location is at the border of Nevada and Arizona, near Lake Mead, the reservoir formed by Hoover Dam. After detection, the Allspark energy is concentrated around the reservoir." Tony continuously adjusted the map's position, finally stopping on an image of Hoover Dam. "This is the largest building in the area, and it has thick concrete covering, which is very suitable for hiding things. Jarvis, pull up all the information on Hoover Dam for me, check the Pentagon's database. Jarvis, receiving the command, quickly began to retrieve the data. Meanwhile, Coulson, who had been left aside, heard Tony looking for information on Hoover Dam. His pupils contracted, and he asked, "Why are you looking for information on Hoover Dam? Why are we looking for information on Hoover Dam?" Tony asked, confused, then suddenly thought of something, narrowed his eyes, and said, "Agent Coulson, do you know something?" Coulson glanced at the menacing robots on either side, swallowed, and forced a smile, saying, "Perhaps you can talk to our director." Nick Fury, who was still at Hoover Dam urging researchers to study Megatron, suddenly received a call from Coulson. He went to a secluded spot and answered the phone. "Phil, you'd better have something important, or you're finished." Coulson's slightly embarrassed voice came from the other end of the line. "Officer, I've made great progress with the alien robots, but the situation is a bit complicated now, and you might need to discuss it yourself." "What are you talking about?" Nick Fury now had a classic black bald egg confused face. "Hello, are you that Homeland Strategic Security and Logistics? That name is as long as a White House work report. Is your department just in charge of stamping documents?" A thick Stark-esque statement came from the phone, and Nick Fury frowned, asking, "Tony Stark. Why are you talking? What do you want?" The uninhibited voice came again. "National Security Courier, have you been doing anything at Hoover Dam that endangers Earth's security? Like, researching alien robots?" Nick Fury's brows furrowed even deeper, and he demanded, "Tony Stark, where did you get that information? These are highly classified." Tony, on the other end, nodded to Optimus Prime and continued to Nick Fury. "Mr. Courier, you're in trouble. According to the information I've gathered, alien robots will soon attack your location. I hope you can prepare and not let them succeed before I arrive. I'll be there to sort everything out very soon." "Stark, what are you talking about?" Beep, beep, beep. The call was disconnected. "Motherfucker." Nick Fury cursed, threw his phone to the ground, and quickly walked towards the command center. "Rumlow, strengthen the base's defenses. The aliens who attacked the US military are going to attack us." Crossbones Brock Rumlow, who was still slacking off, suddenly received such an order. He was momentarily stunned, but his excellent professionalism quickly kicked in, and he went to organize personnel to strengthen the defenses. Seeing Rumlow go to arrange the defenses, Nick Fury stood in front of the huge glass, looked at the massive base below, sighed, took out an old pager from his pocket, and fumbled with it for a few moments. After putting away the pager, Nick Fury went to attend to other matters. He wanted to be fully prepared. What Nick Fury didn't know was that while Rumlow was arranging defenses, he stopped a shield agent and whispered, "Hail Hydra. Hail Hydra." They were all Hydra's spies within S.H.I.E.L.D., or perhaps that wasn't entirely accurate, as a large portion of S.H.I.E.L.D. was made up of Hydra personnel. Rumlow instructed the Hydra agent, "Organize your people. The base will experience a conflict shortly. Seize the opportunity, and in the chaos, take the 284s. The alien robots must be taken." "Yes, officer." Hydra received the order and left to execute it, while Rumlow, following Nick Fury's arrangements, selected S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who were not Hydra to defend the base. They always did this. Whenever they carried out dangerous missions, they would specifically choose genuine S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to preserve Hydra's vital forces. This was also one of the reasons why Hydra was able to infiltrate more than half of S.H.I.E.L.D. The phone was tossed back into Coulson's hand by Tony, and Coulson felt like he had been truly unlucky lately. Ever since he investigated that preaching doctor a few days ago, Coulson felt his luck had taken a turn for the worse. Coulson couldn't remember how he left that house at the time, perhaps he was too tired. Afterward, he kept hitting red lights while driving, the meal he queued for sold out right when it was his turn, and the tools he used always malfunctioned. Because of this, he requested 2 days off from Nick Fury. Seeing how unlucky he was, Nick Fury approved his 2 days of leave. Coulson planned to leave New York for a trip to shake off the bad luck, but he got stuck for a day due to traffic. Finally, when he was almost out of New York, his car broke down again. The next day, after fixing his car, Coulson planned to set off again but was informed by the director that his vacation was over and was given another mission to contact Stark and gather intelligence. It was said that an unidentified flying object appeared over Manhattan last night, even damaging a street, which Stark paid to repair. The director suspected Stark and his aliens were responsible. Unexpectedly, due to bad luck, he got lost near Stark's laboratory and was discovered by two robots, then tied up and brought before Tony Stark. Coulson greatly admired the agent he was partnered with. Coulson's mission was to go with the other agent, but the other agent was so defiant, directly refusing. He still remembered the situation that day. The agent pushed up a monocle he had put on at some point and arrogantly told the director on the other end, "I love saying no to arrogant people. Come find me after my vacation is over, black bald egg." Then the agent coolly hung up on the director and even advised Coulson, "Coulson, don't listen too much to that black bald egg, otherwise, he will only exploit you more." Thus, a two-person mission became a solo mission. At this point, Tony, who was researching Hoover Dam, turned to Coulson and asked, "Coulson, your agent organization should have fighter jets, right? Quickly get us one, we need to get to Hoover Dam fast." "Mr. Stark, that's against regulations." Tony Stark said to Coulson with full authority, "Coulson, no regulations are more important than Earth's security. Do you want to destroy Earth?" Coulson really wanted to reply that the two had nothing to do with each other, but seeing the Autobots staring intently at him from behind, he changed his tone to, "Earth's safety is more important. I'll arrange a fighter jet right away." New York had a shield branch, and under Coulson's arrangements, a Quinjet soon arrived at Stark's laboratory. The Quinjet's interior was very spacious, even Optimus Prime, the largest of them, could fit inside after curling up. Tony Stark, meanwhile, put on his newly modified Mark III armor. Last night, he wasn't just modifying the positioning device, he also took the time to improve the Mark III based on the Mark II's test data and had Jarvis complete the armor's parts manufacturing. He didn't take the Quinjet with Optimus Prime and the others but instead flew ahead to Hoover Dam, relying on the armor's speed. Inside the Quinjet, the smallest Bumblebee was watching Coulson and Black Widow Natasha operate the jet. Being constantly watched by Bumblebee made Coulson a bit uncomfortable, so he said to Natasha, who was piloting the jet, "Natasha, it's really thanks to you for risking flying the Quinjet to help me. Fury anticipated you might need support and notified me in advance to help you." "But Coulson, what's going on with these robots?" Coulson left the cockpit, which Natasha could handle alone. He came to Optimus Prime, wanting to ask for some information. Earlier, because Tony Stark was present, he had been suppressed in terms of aura and had no chance to ask. Optimus Prime, "Hello, my name is Phil Coulson. You seem to be the leader of these robots." "Hello, Coulson." Optimus Prime responded politely. Seeing this, Coulson secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed this leader was very approachable, unlike Tony Stark. "Perhaps we can share some intelligence. This will be very helpful for the potential battles that might occur next." After a pause, Coulson spoke first. In the early 20th century, human explorers successively discovered giant humanoid robots and a giant metal cube. To study them, the president at the time built a dam at what is now Hoover Dam for secret research, which was later taken over by SHIELD for research. Optimus Prime's mechanical eyes visibly trembled, and he asked with a noticeable acceleration in his tone, "Giant mechanical robot, can you tell me in detail?" Coulson raised an eyebrow slightly, first describing the appearance of the robot frozen in ice. He was sealed in ice, entirely silver gray, with a jet device on his back, equipped with multiple energy cannons on his body, and a height of 10 meters. After describing the appearance, he asked calmly, "Is that robot very special? You look very disturbed." Optimus Prime said in a low voice, "If I'm not mistaken, that person is my old friend, Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons." He has been missing for many years, and I didn't expect him to have come to Earth. Cybertron was originally a very prosperous and developed planet, but later due to civil war, resources were depleted, and it was no longer suitable for us Cybertronians to live on. Optimus Prime paused, then continued. I originally thought the Decepticons came to Earth to seize the lost Allspark. Now it seems there's also Megatron's conspiracy involved. He wouldn't have been frozen for so many years without any arrangements. The situation has become even more complicated. Coulson rubbed his face and asked again. What kind of person is that Megatron? Is he very dangerous? Optimus Prime seemed lost in thought, pondering for a long time before answering. We both initially aimed to restore Cybertron, but Megatron gradually became extreme, resorting to unscrupulous means to restore Cybertron. He waged war just for victory, and such wars lasted for thousands of years. Coulson seemed to have thought of something and asked uncertainly. Then why did the Decepticons come to Earth? Did they want to find their former leader? The Allspark is their goal. It provides us with energy and can also be used to create a large number of Cybertronians to provide legions for his war, Optimus Prime answered seriously. Coulson contributed to global warming. He remembered Schild's research on the large cube, from which extracted energy could transform electronic products into violent robots. This is terrible. Can you tell me about the Decepticons' characteristics? I want to report to our director so he can be better prepared. Optimus Prime pondered for a moment, then began to tell Coulson about the Decepticons' intelligence. Coulson noted down everything Optimus Prime said and went to a section of the Quinjet to report to his director. However, the communication request never went through, and the instrument showed no signal. No signal. Coulson felt very uneasy. With Schild's technology, such a situation would almost never occur unless it was intentionally interfered with. Hoover Dam, Shield, Base. A technician came to Nick Fury, who was arranging base affairs, and said anxiously. Director, communication between the base and the outside world has been interfered with. We have now lost contact with the outside world. What? Nick Fury's pupils suddenly widened. He didn't expect the enemy to truly arrive, and so quickly. Go, notify all personnel in the base, highest alert, all combat personnel prepare for battle. However, Nick Fury, as the king of agents, quickly calmed down and began to issue countermeasures in an orderly manner. As the entire base began to mobilize, a robot only up to an adult's knee secretly infiltrated the base. He held a metal box in his hand and, whenever he encountered base personnel, transformed himself into electronic devices such as water dispensers and computers, evading the agent's sight. Soon, the small robot infiltrated outside the command center. He pressed the metal box in his hand against the wall outside the command center, then operated the metal box. A strong electromagnetic pulse was emitted, instantly paralyzing all electronic equipment in the base. The lights immediately went out, and the freezing device maintaining Megatron also stopped working. Nick Fury was standing by the command platform when suddenly the entire base went dark, and the workstations also went out. Mother**CKER. It's an EMP, quickly restart the power system. After Nick Fury took over the base, he had considered electromagnetic pulse attacks, so he had implemented certain protections. As long as the system was restarted, some core functions of the base could be restored. He angrily slammed the command platform, leaving a shallow dent on the surface, then quickly ran towards Megatron's location. He wanted to ensure the alien robot's safety. This was because a technician had suggested that once the ice on the robot's shell thawed, the robot might become active again. When he arrived at Megatron's location, he found many agents surrounding it, as if guarding it. Nick Fury was very pleased to see this and praised them. Very good, knowing to protect important items at the first moment. You will all receive bonuses later. Many Hydra agents grumbled inwardly but responded outwardly. Thank you, Director. They had received orders from Brock Rumlow to prepare to move the alien robot amidst the chaos, but they didn't expect Nick Fury to arrive before their operation even began. This makes it difficult to act. The Hydra members thought to themselves. Outside the base, several alien fighter jets flew in, transformed into humanoid forms in the air, and landed on the dam. Starscream said to the Decepticon soldiers following him. Megatron and the Allspark are both inside. Go find an entrance for me. If you can't find one, blow one open. In the distance, several motorcycles also arrived. They were all Decepticon members. The sound of gunfire erupted as a Decepticon soldier found the base entrance and was engaging in combat with S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. This S.H.I.E.L.D. base was very well equipped with weapons. Many advanced weapons had been developed using technology reverse-engineered from Megatron, temporarily blocking the invasion of the Decepticon soldiers. Seeing this, Starscream flew over and launched several cluster bombs, even blowing away the Decepticon soldiers. What a waste. Starscream kicked away the Decepticon soldier and strode into the base, followed by the other Decepticon members. At the base entrance, which had been turned into ruins by the bombs, the rubble shook, a panel was lifted, and Rumlow emerged from it. Cough, cough, cough. Rumlow coughed a few times and picked up his dropped weapon. During the battle, he had been on the sidelines, letting the real S.H.I.E.L.D. agents take the lead. When he saw the bomb coming, he quickly found cover and escaped. Those S.H.I.E.L.D. agents weren't so lucky, they were either directly blown up or buried alive. He took out his communication device and found there was still no signal. Damn it, I need to find a place with a signal to report the situation to Minister Pierce. After a low curse, Rumlow limped away from the base. Due to the little Decepticon's EMP attack, most of the S.H.I.E.L.D. base's defensive facilities were crippled, and with Hydra's deliberate sabotage, Starscream's invasion met with little resistance. Starscream blasted a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent into ashes, mockingly saying, "Humans are such a weak and incompetent race, even their resistance is so feeble." Nick Fury, still beside Megatron, heard the approaching sounds of battle, and his face grew increasingly grim. After weighing his options, he said to the agent beside him, "Bring me the bomb. I'm going to blow up this alien, it cannot fall into enemy hands." The Hydra agents looked at each other, unsure what to do. Bang! The sound of a heavy object striking echoed, and Nick Fury fell to the ground, then was kicked into a corner. Just knock him out and say it was an enemy sneak attack. A Hydra agent wearing a monocle dropped the wooden board in his hand and said to his companion. All the Hydra agents nodded, approving of the bold Hydra's method. "All right, now let's move this big robot together," a Hydra suggested. Suddenly, the monocle-wearing Hydra walked towards the wall, waved to the Hydras, and said, "Goodbye, everyone." Then he walked directly into the wall. Am I seeing things? Did Khan just disappear? It seems so. Just as the Hydra agents were stunned by what had just happened, Starscream had already arrived in Megatron's area with his Decepticon soldiers. Seeing the enemy approaching, the Hydras raised their weapons and attacked Starscream, who was in the lead. Starscream scratched where he had been hit by bullets, then raised his arm, which was equipped with a cannon. Bang! In the violent explosion, the Hydra agents were either killed or wounded, all losing their combat effectiveness. It's worth mentioning that the least injured person there was Nick Fury, who had passed out beforehand. Starscream came before the frozen Megatron and said in a respectful tone, "My master, I have come to unseal you." Then he shattered the ice encasing Megatron. Megatron's eyes lit up, his mechanical body moved, shaking off the remaining ice, then he raised his arm, first violently pinning Starscream to the ground, then destroying the cryogenic devices and research equipment around him. "Starscream, you made me wait a long time." Starscream dared not retort and could only lie on the ground, saying, "Master, I have finally rescued you." HMPH. Megatron kicked Starscream and ordered a few Decepticons, "Guard this place for me, I'm going to get the Allspark." Yes. Several Decepticons began to go to other parts of the base to eliminate the remaining resisting humans. Outside the base at this time, Tony had just arrived, and he was on the phone with his good friend Rhodes. "Rhodes, when will the military arrive? It looks like Hoover Dam has been occupied by aliens." The Air Force should be arriving soon, but the ground troops will take some more time. Your news came too suddenly, we're already operating at maximum speed. The roar of fighter jets tearing through the atmosphere came from afar. Tony looked over, they were military fighter jets. You guys are somewhat reliable. Once the military's support arrived, Tony no longer hesitated and rushed towards the Decepticons outside the base. Upon getting closer, 2 small missiles were fired from the waist of his suit, accurately hitting 2 Decepticons. The missiles first delivered a powerful electrical shock before exploding. The 2 Decepticons immediately lost their ability to move. These were Tony's latest bombs, designed last night in his spare time based on Ratchet's description of Cybertronian characteristics, capable of effectively paralyzing Decepticon movement. The military's fighter jets also engaged with several Decepticon fighter jets, and with their numerical advantage, they could resist for a while. In the air, Shield's Quinjet finally arrived. The tail ramp of the jet opened, and Optimus Prime and a few Autobots stood on the jet, watching the battle below. Autobots, roll out. After shouting the slogan, Optimus Prime was the first to jump down, followed by Bumblebee, Ironhide, and Jazz. Because their landing spot on Earth was not close to New York, Jazz had only arrived at Tony's laboratory this morning. As for Ratchet, he was a technician, responsible for logistics, and would not participate in direct combat. Optimus Prime landed directly on a Decepticon, piercing it with a sharp sword extended from his arm, tearing the Decepticon in half directly in midair. Finally, Optimus Prime landed on the ground in a standard superhero landing pose, and the moment he stood up, he pierced another charging Decepticon. Bumblebee was grappling with a Decepticon, and Jazz joined the two in battle, helping Bumblebee quickly dispatch the enemy. Ironhide was similar to Optimus Prime, although he couldn't defeat a Decepticon in 1 or 2 moves, dealing with these Decepticon soldiers was still very easy for him. We are 1 step behind the Decepticons. Hurry inside, we must get the Allspark before the Decepticons do. Optimus Prime said to the Autobots, then quickly ran towards the base entrance. The interior of the base was now in chaos. Nick Fury was unconscious, Crossbones Rumlow had fled, and the large base was leaderless. Tony moved through the base, unable to resist complaining, "It's as chaotic as a marketplace in here. How could an organization as big as S.H.I.E.L.D. let it get this bad?" After dispatching another Decepticon soldier, Jarvis's voice rang out, "Sir, there's a survivor over there." Following Jarvis's guidance, Tony found the unconscious Nick Fury in a corner of the ruins. He should be a high-ranking official. I can get information about the Allspark's location from him, searching like this is too slow. Tony took out a syringe from the waist of his armor and directly injected it into Nick Fury's neck. As the medicine was injected, the unconscious Nick Fury suddenly opened his eyes. Just as Tony was about to ask something, the awakened Nick Fury directly pulled out his pistol and emptied the clip at Tony. Hey, soldier, you're shooting the wrong person, I'm not the enemy. Tony Stark. Nick Fury recognized Tony's voice. How could it be you? As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw an Iron Man in front of him, instinctively thinking it was an invading enemy, and immediately opened fire. You still recognize me? Then quickly tell me, where is the Allspark? At this moment, Jarvis reminded, "Sir, based on voice comparison, this person is the S.H.I.E.L.D. director you spoke with earlier." For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.